they moved to unseal the search warrant, which I was hoping going to be everything, but they didn't. So essentially what they did is they left us guessing in the dark. So they purposely did not release the affidavit. So that's really the key to everything. So before I get to that, couple weird things that are being reported. There's apparently a message that former President Trump reached out to Merrick Garland, it says, the day after the warrant request. And for those who have come in recently who are unnamed, great to see you all tonight. And those who are named, great to see you tonight. Looks like Trump put out a alleged text to someone for Garland or to Garland, I don't know. It says, "The country is on fire. What can I do to reduce the heat?" Was the message Trump wanted to convey to Garland, a person familiar with the exchange told the paper. So it looks like here, as I go to Twitter, there's a guy named Robert McGuire, just a normal president, and this is what he's saying, just a normal president hinting to the current Attorney General of the United States, who is about to make an announcement about the investigation into the former president, that he can fan the flames of violence before asking, what can I do to reduce the heat? So those Texas. Shortly before Mr. Garland made the announcement, a person close to Mr. Trump reached out to the Justice Department official to pass along a message from the former president to the Attorney General. Mr. Trump wanted Mr. Garland to know that he had been checking in with the people around the country and found them to be enraged by the search. The message Mr. Trump wanted to convey, according to a person familiar with the exchange, was, "The country is on fire. What can I do to reduce the heat?" Okay, so for those of you that know, like we got the search warrant, right? That was given out, that was unsealed. We have the affidavit inventory return. We don't have the probable cause narrative. So without the probable cause narrative, we're all shooting in the dark. We don't know what were the steps, and unless someone has it, please just let me know. I've asked for it. I haven't seen it, but the probable cause affidavit. Hold on, guys. Sorry about that. So looking at the top here, as I'm on docket number 17 of case 9-22MJ08332 BER, which was filed under seal. Notice of filing of redacted documents by Juan Antonio Gonzalez, who is the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District right now, Tony Gonzalez. And it's a search and seizure warrant, which is all cool and dandy. And it was signed off by Bruce Reinhardt in 8-5, yada, yada, who cares? All right, so attachment A, got to be honest, attachment A and attachment B are pretty sloppy, and the way they labeled everything doesn't really help us out in what they took away. Even though there's been a bunch of conjecture, people talking about this stuff. So attachment A, property to be searched. The premise to be searched is 1100 South Ocean Boulevard, Palm Beach, Florida, 33480. Is further described as a resort, club, and residence located near the intersection of Southern Boulevard and South Ocean Boulevard. It is described as a mansion with approximately 58 bedrooms, 33 bathrooms on a 17-acre estate. The location to be searched inside the 45 office, all storage rooms and all other rooms or areas within the premises used or available to be used by former POTUS, so F. POTUS, and his staff, and in which boxes or documents could be stored, including all structures or buildings on the estate. It does not include areas currently, i.e. at the time of the search, being occupied, rented, or used by third parties such as Mar-a-Lago members, and not otherwise used or available to be used by F. POTUS and his staff, such as private guest suites. So interesting thing about this, not a big deal, but just interesting, is usually when I did my search warrants, and I got them from agents, is we would obviously name the property, but we would do a starting location. So, like for instance, I would say, and we would draft it up. So, starting on for this one, starting on let's just say, um, trying to think what runs out there. Starting on Ocean Boulevard and Worth Avenue, right? So you have a starting spot, and then from there you would say where you go. So that's usually in ones that I've seen. Usually we have a starting spot. This one doesn't. This one just has the address. Kind of sloppily written, especially as to where. You know, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of it. My guys have done better when I was at DOJ. Then attachment B is a fucking joke. I would have told these guys to clean it up. Property to be seized. All physical documents and records constituting evidence, contraband, fruits of the crime, or other items illegally possessed in violation of 18 U.S.C. 793, 2071, or 1519, including the following. So one of those is the Espionage Act. The other two, I have to look up. I forgot. A, any physical documents with classification markings along with any containers, boxes, including any other contents in which such documents are located, as well as any containers, boxes that are collectively stored or found together with the aforementioned documents and containers, boxes. These are usually written pretty vague to allow them to ascertain what they want to look at. So for number 8, it looks like any physical documents with the classification markings. So that looks, it doesn't say what kind of classification, just classification markings. So that means from looking at paragraph A, if you got top secret shit in your microwave, that's in a, let's say, a storage container with no markings, I guess that wouldn't apply here to A. B, information including communications in any form regarding the retrieval, storage, or transmission of national defense information or classified material. Interesting on that, because information including communications in any form regarding the retrieval, storage, or transmission of national defense information or classified material. Well, you're not going to know that until you get it. So if you find 2,700 USBs somewhere, you're not going to know until you go into each and every one of them. Which on its face, can you go into each and every one of those USBs? I don't know. I don't know. Any government and or presidential records created between 2017 and January 20, 2021. Okay, well, again, they would have to be presidential records, which is a broad definition and term. Trump letterhead, White House letterhead, a lot of other letterheads as well. Presidential records. That's a broad term, which would be, I think you'd find that patently obvious on the face of the document. So that one, not too hard, I don't think. Any evidence of the knowing alteration, destruction, or concealment of any government and or presidential records, or of any document with classification markings. Okay, so or of any documents with classification markings. So D, the second part of paragraph D repeats paragraph A. We're back to classification markings. The first part of paragraph D says any evidence of the knowing alteration, destruction, or concealment of any government and or presidential records. I guess if someone decided to pull a Nancy Pelosi and tear a piece of paper in half, and you threw it on the ground, I guess that's what they're going to do. I don't know what that means. Attachment B is written so broadly and vague, it really sucks. Which is why I'm really curious, because so I'll go to the receipt of the property now, but this is why I'm so curious in the probable cause affidavit, because the probable cause affidavit is what we're talking about with a crime of particularity, right? So the probable cause affidavit would have to say what they uncovered or knew that would form the basis to sign off on this search warrant. We don't have that yet. So to go any further, I think Garland and the FBI and DOJ were getting killed in the court of public opinion, and they released this. And if you actually read it, they released jack shit, because without the probable cause narrative, it doesn't tell you why they did what they did, and that's what we all want. We all want to know why they did what they did. It doesn't say it. Attachment A is a poorly written address. Attachment B is really vague of what you can get out of the house. which A and D, are the same almost. And then the receipt for property, they labeled. So 4 documents is the first thing. Box labeled A14, box labeled A26, box labeled A43, box labeled A13, box labeled A33. Cool. You guys labeled boxes and you took away boxes. And then it's signed off on. So again, doesn't tell us much there. Receipt for property goes on, and we get a little more detail, but not much. Executive grant of clemency regarding Roger Jason Stone. Well, of course, they wanted everyone to know that, so they typed that out. Information regarding President of France. Again, they wanted all of us to know that and to speculate on that, so they typed that out. Leather-bound box of documents. Well, I don't know what that is. I know what that is. Does that have to do with Russia or the dossier? I don't know. Various classified TS, SCI documents. Okay. Potential presidential record. You said you were able to take presidential records and documents. What is a potential presidential record, and why did you take it? It was only potential. Binder of photos. Again, I don't know where binders of photos would have fallen in above. I guess it would determine what they were photos of. A handwritten note. They obviously don't want you to know what the handwritten note is because they could have described it, but they did. Box labeled A1, box labeled A12, box labeled A15. Miscellaneous secret documents. So again, they want you to speculate on secret documents. Box labeled A16, miscellaneous top secret documents. Cool, awesome. Don't know what that means either. Box labeled A17, box labeled A18, miscellaneous top secret documents. Box labeled A27, miscellaneous confidential documents. Cool, you guys told me nothing so far. Last page, box labeled A28, miscellaneous secret documents, box labeled, confidential document, box labeled, secret documents, box labeled, confidential documents, box labeled, top secret documents, box labeled, miscellaneous top secret documents. Cool. I don't know what the fuck they took or got. So as we sit here, we still don't know. And I was talking to Ship, who's in the room here. And Ship, feel free to come up. And Angry, I'm going to bring you up now. There's no probable cause narrative. So we don't know if they had reasonable suspicion of criminal activity afoot or probable cause that a crime was committed and the evidence or the fruits of that crime were going to be found at Mar-a-Lago, because we don't have the probable cause narrative. So until we have it, we're all just fucking pissing in the wind. And this leads us to no further conclusion that what they did was correct or incorrect without the probable cause narrative. It's don't piss in the wind and tell me it's raining. That's what they did. They said they were going to release it, and they released nothing. They released what they said they were going to release. They released the search warrant, the inventory and return, and they did not release the probable cause affidavit, which is what everyone wanted to see and everybody wanted to know. It was, why did you go in? They didn't release it. So that's where we are. And then not to take shots at lawyers I don't know. So, I don't know this lawyer, but apparently, and I don't know if it's Ali Haba, who's currently one of Trump's attorneys, but apparently one of the lawyers, which I haven't looked into who it was. There was an article. I just had a busy weekend. But apparently one of the lawyers signed off saying that these documents were returned back in June, or they weren't at the location, and that they were given back. So now we have a situation where that lawyer needs a lawyer. And, you look at someone like Jenna Ellis, who's his attorney prior, blonde, good looking, went to Liberty University. I don't know, some fucking bullshit school. She never impressed me as an attorney. Ali Haba, who's currently his attorney now, blonde, beautiful, went to where the fuck did she go? Hold on, because I was curious on this one. They go to unnamed schools, I don't know. Lawyer Trump. I could be pronouncing her name wrong. It could be Baba. I don't know. Just give me a second. Ali Haba. Let me just find this out. It's like, so she's on TV again, blonde, cute. Where did she go to law school, and how long has she been out? Let me see here. So according to this article, she came out of nowhere. She's a New Jersey lawyer. Just trying to figure out. Her name is Alina Haba, and almost out of nowhere, the relatively unknown New Jersey lawyer went from representing a college student ticked off at COVID-19 virtual learning to being one of the top attorneys defending the twice impeached former president. I'm not going to read the commentaries on this. I'm trying to. This article is very not nice about her. I'm just trying to figure out where she went to school. I saw it yesterday. She went to some unknown place too. If any of Julia, if you can find, let me know. I'm just going to.
What's the name?
Alina Haba, Habba.
Okay, I'll look it up.
Oh, I got it right here. Oh, she went to Widener University Commonwealth Law School. I didn't even. Widener, yeah, whatever. I didn't know it was a fucking school. Haven't heard of it. Don't know what it is. It's not fucking UPenn. Where does he find these people? Like, again, I don't know. I'm just looking. Some of the articles I've read, I saw her on TV. I don't know. She's owned her own firm exclusively, which, can be good or bad, meaning that you're just a great attorney and you have your own firm, or possibly, you didn't get a job anywhere else. I don't know. And I'm trying to see.
Or you don't work well with others.
Right, or you don't work with others. And she graduated in 2011, looks like. And I think she may have gone part-time, according to this. According to Business Insider, Haba attended Widener University Law School in Pennsylvania between 2007 and 2011. So it took her 4 years. So I don't know. Maybe she went part-time. I don't know. I don't know where he finds these people. So again, haven't done a lot of research on it. So, that's where I'm going to end it. Just, some of the stuff she was saying and some of the announcements was just kind of interesting. So that's where we are. So let me go to Julia and Michael. Question, what are your guys' thoughts on DOJ? What are your thoughts on Garland personally signing off on it? The U.S. attorney for the Southern District being personally involved, which is why none of my friends knew anything about it. And then they say they're going to release the search warrant, which is almost like a play on words, because without releasing the probable cause narrative, the search warrant's useless to us. I mean, we all know that there was a search warrant that was signed, and we all know they took stuff, right? But everyone wants to know what led up to that. That gave Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhardt probable cause to sign off on the raid of 45's Mar-a-Lago, right? We don't have that. They did not release that, which was obviously on purpose. So, Julia, I'll go to you.
Yeah, we really need to see that affidavit because that will really tell us a lot. I want to see all of the evidence. Otherwise, it's just ambiguous. It's really vague. I don't know that they're going to actually even have that much. I don't think they have that much, but it's really unprecedented. I'm not surprised though on the Garland front. I said, like he has to be behind. It's the only thing that makes sense. I do think it was absolute bullshit though that especially with the Newsweek story. I talked about this in the last space. Newsweek had two senior officials from DOJ saying that he wasn't aware of the specific date or time of the raid, basically saying that like he had no idea about it, and then he comes out and says, "No, I signed off on it." So who was wrong there? And then all they did was edit the story to take that line out, saying, "Oh, following his press conference, we've edited a line out now that we have more information." It's like, so what was going on there? They were authorized to speak, with anonymity. So he's just lying, and that's what Gar does, just Lies, lies, lies. So, I'd like to know how long this has been brewing. Was the informant set up? Who is the informant? A lot of questions remain, but it definitely seems like, another hoax. They want to take down Trump. They don't want him being able to run for office. But what has happened here is I think it's united conservatives, and not just conservatives. I think it's awoken a lot more independents as well. I mean, it's backfired in a huge way. You already see that happening. Hopefully a lot of you have seen the videos that have come out, I think, yesterday and today of the rallies that are happening. I mean, Crypto, you were kind of there. I wouldn't say you were at the rally. You were definitely reporting from it. I don't want to speak on your behalf, but we've seen them, and they're still happening in Mar-a-Lago. Massive one on Long Island, Phoenix, etc. There's been a lot of other places. So a lot of support for President Trump. And I don't think this is going to go the way that they thought it would.
Yeah, I agree. Just looking more stuff up.
They're definitely scared.
Yeah, I agree.
They're kind of backed into a corner, and this is what they're doing. They're trying anything they can, and it's really appearing desperate. And then you've got Rand Paul. I don't know if people heard about this just a couple hours ago. He called for the repeal of the Espionage Act in the wake of this raid. He tweeted, "The Espionage Act was abused from the beginning to jail dissenters of World War I. It's long past time to repeal this egregious affront to the First Amendment." And then, of course, Trump said, so following the release of the search warrant, he said, number one, it was all declassified. Number two, they didn't need to seize anything. They could have had it anytime they wanted without playing politics and breaking into Mar-a-Lago. It was in secured storage with an additional lock put on as per the request. I remember we talked about that in the last Space Crypto. They could have had it anytime they wanted, and that includes long ago. All they had to do was ask, and he put that line in all capitals. The bigger problem is, what are they going to do with the 33 million pages of documents, many of which are classified, that President Obama took to Chicago? So once again, calling out that, double standard, that two-tiered system of justice that we definitely seem to have here in the United States.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point.
And we see it again today, with that. Well, I guess it came out yesterday, but the DHS and FBI putting out that joint intelligence bulletin regarding domestic terrorism and saying, we're seeing a rise in violence and, violent social media posts and calls to violence. And then, of course, violent acts that are happening. You've got the guy in Ohio going into a building, showing a rifle, but then shooting at them with a nail gun. And incidences like that just, at least to me, don't make a whole lot of sense. I'm not encouraging that at all or saying that any of that was okay. I don't condone violence. Everything should be peaceful. But, if you are going to make your voice heard or protest. But it seems like they only label one side, the domestic terrorists, anytime, they're calling out violence. Where were the bulletins when you had BLM and Antifa and their riots?
Right.
Did they have anything like that?
I got a memo at work working for the government that said it was okay to wear BLM outfits or garments saying BLM to work in the federal government, as long as there wasn't other connotations with it. That if it was just BLM, that it was okay, and that was from the Office of Special Counsel, which is it's not like a Mueller thing. It's an overall government department over the Inspector Generals.
Interesting.
And was that after the George Floyd protests?
Yes. So I'm basically saying that not only weren't they neutral, they were pro-BLM, saying that you could wear that to work. But if I wore an America First or a Make America Great Again hat, I would be sent home and probably reprimanded.
BY, are you sick? You sound different.
Probably Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, wow. I had no idea that was BY until I looked. So yeah, there's other articles like this. Take it for what it's worth. It's Yahoo News, it's just the title of this is Meet Alina Habba, the New Jersey parking garage lawyer, now handling Donald Trump's most personal lawsuits. Former President Donald Trump hired a low-profile lawyer to represent some of his most personal cases. Alina Habba is defending him in sexual assault cases and suing the New York Attorney General's office, leading the Trump Organization probe. I hope she has criminal defense or prosecution experience. Experts say Habba hitching herself to Trump carries great reputational risks. I'm sorry, Julia, go ahead.
I was just going to ask Crypto or Shipley, do you guys have any thoughts on why it would take or what they were doing for 9 hours in the house?
Yeah, I can go to Ship real quick, but it takes a while. I've done places not even close to the size of Mar-a-Lago, and I usually don't go on. I went on maybe 4 or 5 in my entire career. They discourage us from going on them, but just think of a normal 3-2 house that's like 2,000 square feet, 2,500 square feet.
And
I've
searching
seen
each individual panty.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
For
mean,
the nuclear codes. Yeah.
right. So stuff like that. So I've seen my agents in there from 4 in the morning till noon. I'll leave before they're done, but I've seen them in there. I mean, I was telling the story to, I think it was Mark, during the weekend, but there was one that I was on, and long story short was they were going through this guy's closet, and they were checking out his Jordans, and he had like a whole set of Jordans, like really expensive, like whole set, like premium Jordans, and some of the agents started pulling them down to look at them, and there was cash. There was like wads of cash, like like $10,000 in each shoe. It was like just a weird thing. And as they pulled them down, he had like this whole set. It must have been like, you guys know how Jordans can go for, and he was definitely a shoe aficionado, and he had just wads of cash actually down. So they do a pretty good job tossing it up. Ship.
Yeah, let me give you a more practical consideration.
Mm-hmm.
One, they're not in a hurry. Okay, they're just simply not in a hurry.
Right.
Second thing is, when the Bureau rolls out for like a 7 a.m. search warrant, they're generally going to stage at 5. They have a whole pre-brief. They don't just all collectively say, okay, we're going to Mar-a-Lago, see you there in the morning.
Right.
They have a pre-brief. They start a couple hours early. They roll out. When they get to 8.5 hours, they don't have to go back to the office.
Mm-hmm.
So the agents, trust me, they do this math in their head. They know, okay, so if we stay here until a certain time, we're done for the day. We don't have to go drive back to the office. We're going home. And if that 8.5 hours is at 2:30, it's at 2:30.
Right.
If it's at 4 o'clock, it's at 4 o'clock. The normal bureau workday is 8 to 5. They're expected to be at their desk by 8. They can leave at 5 unless they're out doing something that they need to be doing, in which case the workday is 8.5 hours. 8 hours of work, 5 hour, half hour for lunch. So, I mean, anybody listening, you got to believe me, these little mundane kind of factors all play a big role in the answer to the question of, well, why were they there for 9 hours?
Yeah. It's a tweet that a lot of people are putting out. I've seen it a lot, so I definitely wanted to get an answer to that. So is it about not having to go back to the office or overtime or both?
Well, they don't get overtime, but it's about not having to go back to the office.
Okay.
If you're staging at 5, 7 hours is going to be noon. 1:30, your workday's over. If you don't go back to the office. If you go back to the office, you can still 5. So, so the search is going to go until they exceed that time that they need to exceed to be released for the day. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you want to know why they do a lot of searches on Friday morning? They get an early start on the weekend.
Yeah, that's a good point. And
this was a Wednesday search. Which the fact that it was a Wednesday search is interesting because they got the warrant on Friday, and they didn't execute the search warrant until Wednesday. And I'm scratching my head over why the 5-day delay when this was always intended to be sort of a low-key warrant. They don't have an entry team. They don't need anything like that. They know Trump is going to be gone. They know it's they're just staff there. Mar-a-Lago's closed, I guess, during August, and so there's not going to be anybody there. Why does it take 5 days to plan, given that they clearly had weeks leading up to getting the warrant where it was being contemplated? I I mean, knowing what I do about how the case agent, and there would be one agent in charge, knowing what I know about how case agents go about putting together an ops plan for the execution of warrant, and all of this gets done. This is all standard procedure in every warrant. There's an ops plan, and then there's a pre-brief, where they meet. I mean, I've gone to pre-briefs at 4 o'clock in the morning with 200 agents searching 10 places. And you do it in an auditorium, and there's coffee and donuts, and because people are showing up at 4 a.m.
Well, can we talk briefly about the 90 days before an election? The DOJ not taking steps that could be perceived as politically motivated. I mean, this was 92 days before midterms. Is that a
rule,
thing?
That's more of an internal guideline. There's not a statute. There's not even a written rule. It's kind of an internal guideline, and it only really applies to candidates. So Trump's not a candidate.
I think they wrote a memo internally, but the other thing was that I think they might have been waiting for Biden to go on vacation. They can't say that. But if Biden's on vacation, then it can just be about Merrick Garland and doing this, and then Biden doesn't have to answer press conferences because he's off on vacation. So he can say he's not avoiding it, he's just on vacation.
And it could have been also the timing of when Trump wasn't there. I don't know how often he was there. It sounds like he wasn't there a lot, but obviously I have no idea what his schedule was and when he was at Mar-a-Lago, but it sounded like they didn't want him to be around for sure. So it may have been just all this timing all had to work out. And then of course, I would imagine that midterms did factor in, but like I said, it's not.
Well, and to your original point, Julia, they're doing all these things where they take advantage of two separate things. So basically, the warrant says they want to grab all these government documents and take them off-site to evaluate them. But then they stayed on-site and carefully evaluated them enough to get a property receipt that made it look bad by saying miscellaneous top secret, miscellaneous secret, miscellaneous confidential, which are all levels of secrecy. And then by claiming 3 different statutes for confiscating the records, they're covering themselves that, this could just be about confiscating presidential records, or it could be about confiscating classified information for the protection of it, but not committing themselves to either, which I think Shipley and others have tweeted out as being quite the fishing expedition.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I don't think they wanted to give Trump a platform to be there during the time. And I read somewhere, I don't recall at this point, and I'll go to page, trying to see what the rest of it says, a page of ink. So I'll go to page here in a second, but I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know what's true and what's not these days at all, but someone either tweeted or I wrote somewhere that it was actually ironic that Trump was wherever he was during the search warrant, because when he got the phone call, apparently he was able to watch the search warrant on the CCTV cameras. Again, don't know if it's true or not, but it would be ironic if he wasn't there and he's like, oh, look at that, they're kicking everyone out, and if I was there, I'd be on the median right now, but instead I'm watching them as they go around room to room and they try on Melania's dresses. So, it would kind of be interesting. But Paige, what's up? Good to see you.
Hey, everybody. It's been a while. I'm going to ask the obvious, or for us clueless people that don't know all the big stuff like you and Julia and you guys know, but does he have to announce that he's running? Is there a cutoff time where he has to announce? Is it going to affect that? I know that's the goal. They don't want him running. Sebastian Gorka was telling somebody on Fox, I think earlier, that he had talked to him and that he is going to announce he's running. And but he was going to wait either before primaries or after. But is this going to affect that timeline? And I would be afraid of them hanging out in there and putting God knows what in there.
Right. I'll go to Julia on that. My understanding is it's not going to affect this timeline. People were telling him to just go ahead and come out and announce and things like that. My understanding is it's not going to affect his timeline, but I'll go to her on that. And the thing I read is that, so two things. One is, I think I heard, well, it's not that I heard, I read it somewhere again. Twitter would most likely be a source, but apparently there's been talks that they'll drop all of these charges and all this stuff going after Trump if he agrees not to run in 2024. Again, I don't think that's shocking to anyone. Take it for what it's worth, whether you believe it's true or not. And then as far as him announcing, I think he's going to do what he's going to do, which I think is probably going to be after the midterms, if I had to guess. I don't know. And the other thing is, my understanding is the RNC has said that if he announces, they're not going to keep paying his legal bills. So maybe Julia can comment on that. But I want to say I read somewhere that maybe Ronna McDaniel or someone confirmed or said or something that because currently the RNC is paying a lot of his legal bills from when he was president. But that would essentially not be happening now I don't know if that's because they just can't do it if he announces, or if they're being vindictive and they don't want him to run. I don't know. What's your take on if and when he announces, and then we'll hop over to Michael.
If he had announced it before the raid, it would have made the DOJ look worse. But, had he announcing wouldn't have forestalled a raid at all. So that didn't matter. And really, the same issue remains. Announcing will just subject him to campaign finance laws. But a lot of people want him to announce, a lot of his, whether they're former advisors or current advisors, want him to announce now and say that the sooner the better, because he has a lot of momentum and a lot of people supporting him. And you see that, like I said earlier, with the rallies. So Bannon came out hard on August 8th, the day that the raid had happened. And he said, Mr. President of months, ride now and ride hard. We need to stop playing around and go full smash mouth. Announce for the presidency tomorrow at Mar-a-Lago. But I think Trump is going to hold out. I'm not sure if he's going to wait until after midterms, like he was originally suspected he would do. But it would give him, he has a lot of momentum. He could do something like, are you fed up with the government? Are you fed up with the way we're being treated? Join me, donate, follow my campaign. And he would have the support from, I think, a lot of people right now. But no, it wouldn't affect anything.
Yeah, and then the other thing that's interesting is, as I go to Michael, is other lawsuit that Trump filed against Hillary Clinton and the DNC and 26 other people. He has Peter Tickton, and I have a couple of friends who worked at the Peter Tickton Law Group. Peter Tickton's daughter, Jessica Tickton, was actually a judge in Palm Beach County for a few years. I think she did maybe one term, so 6 years. It was actually a funny story. Peter Tickton runs his own law group. It's a pretty big firm. When I say pretty big, it's not a large firm. It's like 20 or 30 lawyers. And one of the judges, Diana Lewis, from my understanding from reading on the background of this, 6-8 years ago, gave the Tickton Law Group a really adverse ruling, and Jessica decided to donate herself $200,000, $300,000, and run against the judge and beat her. Because in Florida, the governor can appoint you or you can run, and quite often those who have the most money will win a judgeship, at least in Florida. But the other thing that's interesting is that I'm trying to see who is, if anyone, and I'll come back to this, but in the lawsuit down here where Trump filed it, I'm trying to see. So anyway, Peter Tickton, the reason why I bring it up is Peter Tickton is the lead attorney on this case, and the Tickton Law Group is the lead attorney on this case. But the Tickton Law Group was notorious about 10 years ago, and even up until now, doing foreclosure work. So, 2008 onward, when everything crashed, the Tickton Law Group was really a foreclosure mill. And I know that Peter Tickton knows Donald Trump. They grew up together. They went to like the same, I don't know, like boarding school or whatever. You guys can look it up, but it's interesting. But I do know that another attorney came in and joined the Tickton Law Group, because the Tickton Law Group, I don't think would know the first thing in this $72 million lawsuit and damages of a conspiracy against Clinton and DNC and racketeering and all this stuff. I don't think they would know the first thing on how to do this. So I'm trying to figure out, without going into Pacer, on who else joined the Tickton Law Group. I believe there was someone that was out of the state that came in to help Peter Tickton do it. But yeah, I mean, it seems as if Trump picks good-looking women as his attorney, or past friends, not necessarily some of the best people. Not that people can't be suspended for the practice of law. I mean, you can. Peter Tickton was. It says it right here in this article on Newsweek that he was suspended in 2016 from the practice of law for a while. So, I mean, not exactly, I mean, it happens to people. But again, just kind of interesting lawyers he's picking. But so before I go to Michael, Julia, you're saying that you think he announces before the November general?
I think it's definitely more likely now, especially because there are record high numbers of GOP voters that really want him to run, especially after this raid. I definitely think it's like much, much more likely. But whether or not he does, I mean, it's still, to me, it's probably still like 50-50, because I think he is cautious. He wants to see how midterms is going to play out. And he also wants to see if an indictment is forthcoming. We can't forget about that. They definitely want to indict him. This raid is proof positive that I would say it's coming. And I think you agree with that. Yeah. But more people than ever want him to run and want a leader. It's not just, I don't think it's just Republicans and conservatives. I do think it's even independents. People are starved for a leader.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll see if he decides to jump in, but he might want to see if that indictment comes first.
Yeah, that will be an interesting. We'll see how that works, and whether it's a blowback or not.
Midterms might not be the metric or the litmus any longer. It might be that first, and then.
Right. Yeah, I'm just looking at Trump's filing versus Clinton and the DNC and Wasserman Schultz and John Podesta. It's just funny. I'm looking at it. It's actually in the Fort Pierce office. The presiding judge currently is Patrick. The current judge is William Matthewman. He's the magistrate. And then judge number 2 is Ryan McCabe. He's also a magistrate. Judge number 3 on the case is Donald Middlebrooks. Judge number 4 on the case was Bruce Reinhardt, who recused himself. Judge number 5, who may be on the case still, is Jared Strauss. And judge number 6 is Alicia Val. And it's a racketeering corrupt organization, so it's a RICO case under 1962. But it's just funny that the case is so massive. It has so many judges and so many magistrates on it. It's just funny. And there's so many defendants, and all very wealthy defendants, like Bruce Orr, Natalie Orr, James Comey, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Andrew McCabe, Adam Schiff. These are all people that are going to have attorneys, and they're going to be able to respond. And there's not going to be many defaults here, so there's going to be a lot of filings in that case. That's going to be one that I'm definitely glad I'm not having to be the magistrate on that one. Michael, over to you, brother.
Hey guys. First, I'll just say my mom is giddy as hell. I haven't heard her this happy since Christmas. With that said, I have a question from one of the listeners. I think I understand it pretty well, but this is mainly for you, Crypto. So the question is two parts, and then I actually have another question for you, crypto after this, but so the first one is, what is the burden of clarity required or reasonably expected in a warrant of this nature? A federal level elected official. Okay, that's the first question.
Let me answer the first one because I'm notoriously bad in questions after question. So the first one is, are you asking for the search warrant? What is the burden?
I believe so, since that's all we know now.
Right. So they would have to demonstrate in the probable cause narrative that there is probable cause that a crime has been committed. The crime was committed by Donald Trump, and the fruits of the crime or the evidence of the crime is being held at Mar-a-Lago. So probable cause would be the standard.
Okay. Second question is, how do the three legal codes on the warrant differ from or mirror those used for investigating Clinton?
The answer is I don't know. I would have to look them up side by side. If I had if I had an hour to look into those, I could give you a better answer. But instead of just bullshitting on that, the answer is I don't know. And also, my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not aware of, besides what Comey did, right, in obviously 2016, when he looked into the server and then he announced it, which that whole thing was weird in 2016, right? It was I think it was like a month before the election, and he comes out and says that she has this server, and there's that song out on Twitter now that's cracking me up. There's like 100 and something emails. There's 52 email chains that there is classified information on it, but essentially he says that he believes that no prosecutor would reasonably take this case, which is interesting because, I can go to ship on this real quick, but, it's not up to Comey to prosecute. It's up to the prosecutor. So, did he ever submit the case to DOJ? I don't know. He can say as the director of FBI that he believes that no prosecutor would reasonably take this case, but until you give it to an AUSA to look at, and then it goes through the chain of whether or not there's going to be indictment or not. That's not for the FBI to say. So, Ship, do you remember that whole thing back in 2016?
Yeah, very well.
Yeah.
He used what's it? What was the AG's name? Loretta Lynch. Is that her name?
Yeah, the one
I'm
that
talking about a country music store. That's Loretta Lynch. No,
Tarmac
he
Lynch.
used
Tarmac Lynch,
Tarmac
right.
Lynch. He used Loretta Lynch's meeting with Bill Clinton on the tarmac at Phoenix Airport as an excuse to say that he feared that if he kicked it to the Justice Department and with a recommendation, which the Bureau can give a recommendation, if he kicked it to the Justice Department with a recommendation to not file, and the Justice Department followed the recommendation, it would be perceived as a political outcome against the backdrop of Lynch meeting with Bill Clinton in the private jet. So rather than have that be the public perception of the otherwise impartial decision that the FBI made, he took it upon himself to announce the FBI's point of view, which was that no case was warranted, and having been Deputy Attorney General himself, felt that it was within his realm of expertise to make that judgment, and by having doing it as a presidential appointee for a term of 10 years, and not a department head or a department head like the Attorney General who's appointed by the president and serves only during the term of the administration, that he had more credibility for that being an impartial determination on the facts and circumstances of the case, as opposed to a political outcome that benefited Hillary Clinton by allowing her to dodge indictment on the Espionage Act charges. Now, remember, nobody ever described what she did as the Espionage Act, but it's the same statute, with regard to mishandling classified information, which was a nice little operation. The Mar-a-Lago search warrant, because they just used the statutory number 973, I believe, without delineating which subparagraph of 973 they were relying on, because there's multiple paragraphs of 973 that all deal with different issues.
Right.
So it's like, well, yeah, one of those. yeah. Was it 973 A, B, C, D, E? Well, yes, it is one of those.
Right.
And so they could be, now, a lot of people maybe don't understand, because they're not often made public. When you have, all of the various paperwork that was filed in support of the search warrant being issued becomes a subject of, courtroom battle. But this affidavit, it's hard to predict exactly how long and involved it might be. Generally a federal affidavit tends to run long because the agents load a lot of boilerplate crap up in the first 15 pages or so that, you just get past that, like facts supporting, probable cause. That's what you're looking for as a reader. But I mean, it might be it might be 150 pages long. It might be 30 pages long. You don't know. It's an absolute mystery at this point about how much is in there. And another thing that is in the affidavit that's not part of the public documents is the definition that the government gives to some of these terms. Like, for example, the 973E, I think, is the subparagraph that is most being focused on here, that deals with national defense information. And that's a 3-word phrase that's in that provision, national defense information. Doesn't have to be classified at any level. It's just national defense information. Law that has defined that over time. And so what definition did the government give to the magistrate in the affidavit? Now, typically you would say, well, why would the government give a definition to the magistrate? He's the judge. Yeah, but when they're reading affidavit, they're not going to their Westlaw account and searching and doing legal research as to what some of this stuff means. They accept the representation made in the affidavit as to the scope of statutes and the meaning of some words within statutes that aren't otherwise defined. And that's part of the preparation of the affidavit, is anticipating, especially an area of law where it's likely the magistrate has never seen anything like this before. I mean, why would a magistrate in the Southern District of Florida deal with national security documents unless you had some prior espionage case with some Russian expat down there? Who knows? So it's entirely likely that Friedman needed that information in the affidavit, and you don't leave it to the judge to go to back into chambers and start doing his own legal research. You might not have to do that in D.C., where the judges have these kinds of cases with some frequency. So will that document ever come out? I think it's being held primarily because, first of all, there's apparently human source information in there. There's an informant somewhere who gave them information about specific locations of allegedly specific documents. Now, that could all be redacted. If they wanted to release it, they could just black all that information out, so the public would not know who that is, because you're trying to protect that person's identity. But and they can't reveal information that has been derived or obtained through the grand jury process. So if there's information in the affidavit that is the product of a grand jury subpoena or witness's testimony for the grand jury, you can't include that. You can include it in the affidavit, but you can't make it public. But the non-publication, non-disclosure policy in DOJ is just that. It's a policy, and it has exceptions. And if Merrick Garland wanted to explain this matter of a significant, important public interest, he could do so. And he could release the affidavit, appropriately redacted, but at least give the public a view of the facts and circumstances that led the FBI to take this action. He can do that. He's the Attorney General. The regulation specifically provides that he can make the exceptions to disclose information publicly. He can't violate Rule 6E, and he would be mindful of not, outing an FBI informant unnecessarily. But he could give out the information. He's choosing not to. Donald Trump can't, because Donald Trump doesn't have it. The person whose property is searched doesn't get a copy of the affidavit.
Hey, Crypto, real quick. So Ship read my mind and did. Thank you, Ship. That was amazing. So Crypto and maybe Ship too here. I know this is almost impossible what I'm asking, but Crypto, put your professor hat on, and it may help others. That's the thing, right? I mean, so let's say we get this affidavit, it's redacted, whatever. But if you're able to do it, please try to think about this or give us your thoughts. What would you guys have to see, right? We know we're going to see it redacted, but somebody didn't. What would you guys have to see in that affidavit? And obviously try to be as unbiased as possible. What would you guys have to see that would you guys would be like, okay, this is legit, and we really need to see what's going on? I know it's a tough question, but I think you understand.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because, are we going under the premise of these documents are going to be confidential, and because of that, we're going under some of these statutes like the Espionage Act, or things like. And I think, Ship, was it you or was it someone else that said that as a matter of law, when they left and they went to Mar-a-Lago, they were declassified? Ship, are you there?
Yeah, I've taken that. I've taken the position on Twitter that there's a president classified because the president wants them classified. So at any point up until Trump left office at noon on January 20th, he could make a judgment with regard to any classified document that he wanted to declassify it. He doesn't need anybody's permission. He doesn't need any particular written document saying it happened. It's his authority to do so. And supposedly there's a report out that he at some point made some comment, and I'm just paraphrasing what I've read, that he said, look, anything that goes to the residence or anything that leaves the White House with me, I'm declassifying. Meaning that he made a judgment that if I take it with me, it's because I want it to become public. And that's within his authority. I saw a note, posted by, or that somebody attributed to Peter Strzok saying, the Trump administration was the biggest counterintelligence, failure in United States history, blah, blah, blah. It's like, Trump decides what's in the nation's national interest. If Trump wanted to sign a treaty with Russia, he's the president. That's part of his job. The fact that the deep state or the people at the FBI don't like it, so what? Run for office if you want the priorities to be different. But you don't get to judge whether a president's right or wrong by virtue of president. He decides. So he can decide if this information, if it's in the public interest or the interest of the United States for this information to be public or not public. He's only one person in the executive branch gets elected. Nobody else. Everybody else gets hired by that one person. So all those judgments rest with him. Now, okay. So what would I? Okay, so it's a practical matter, and I did this for 22 years, and I had my hand in 500 search warrants or more. In my habit, my practice, I developed it early. I did a lot of drug cases my first 5-6 years. I developed it early. I made the call on when a search warrant was going to be executed, and I wrote the affidavit. The agent signed it, but I wrote it. the agent only had to swear that it was all true, complete. He didn't have to swear he was the author. And I did it that way because I was taking the information from the agents that they had gathered in their investigation. I was processing it in my own head against the legal standards. And what I tell the agents is, sometimes I'd have them write me a first draft just so I could get the facts without having to type them in myself. But what I would tell the agents is, look, only one of us can have to stand up in court and defend this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to say what I want it to say at the end of the day. As long as you can sign it that it's all true, it's going to be a product of my craftsmanship, not yours. And most of them were fine with that. They didn't like writing them. Most of them thought it was a chore, and sometimes they weren't, didn't feel terribly confident that what they would do would be, sufficient, and didn't want to be criticized for their failures. So it's like if somebody wanted to take that obligation away from them, they were fine with it. And I was single at the time, so if I had to stay and work till 10 o'clock at night, working on an affidavit that was 75 pages long, it's like no big deal. It's kind of fun. And so that was my practice. So your question of what would I have had to seen, it's kind of, for me, the cart's before a horse there, because I'm going to be making the judgments all along as I work with them until I get to the point of say, okay, now we got to work. Let's go.
Yeah, and to be quite honest, Michael's not a co-host anymore. Hold on, I was just looking. Let me remove Michael, and let me bring you back up, Michael. Hold on. Oh, crap. Hold on, Michael. I sent you the wrong one. Invite as co-host. Michael should be coming back up. Michael. All right, so there he is. He's back. All right. Michael, I got to be honest. I never worked with those statutes, so I would have to break them down. I spent all of my time doing guns and drugs, so I'd have to break them down, which I haven't done. What I have been doing, to be quite honest, guys, is while you've been talking, I've been looking at Trump's Southern District, and this will be my only comment for this because I've been entrenched with this right now. In March of 2022, he filed that lawsuit against damn near everyone in the country, and the amount of attorneys that have come in pro hoc vice, and the amount of filings, there's been 252 docket entries, and they haven't gotten past the motion to dismiss stage. There's amended complaints, there's amended notice of removals, but everyone is essentially filed a motion to dismiss it, and there's like 26 defendants. So Donald Trump is the plaintiff, and then there's like 26 defendants, and they're literally at filing 252. And it's August 11th, so March, April, May, June, July, August. They're 6 months, almost 7 months into the lawsuit, and they're still filing motions to dismiss and responses and replies. Now, Ship, I happen to do some civil now, but let me ask you a question. To me, this thing looks like a fucking nightmare. Would you be part of this? Ship, are you there?
Yeah. I was laughing. I said, well, yeah, if the check arrives every month.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean,
it sounds like
right.
full employment.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm getting paid a lot, I mean, but Jesus, there's 252 filings. This thing is so convoluted. Even the judges are reserving. There's motions to dismiss. There's memorandums. This is true. In criminal, we have everything easy and it's expedited, right? We turn everything over and we kind of go from there. They haven't even entered anywhere near close to the civil discovery phase yet. They are simply at the motion to dismiss phase, which is simply saying you haven't stated the prima facie case, there's a failure to state a claim. And yeah, I mean, but some of the firms that are coming in on this, I mean, there's just monster firms coming in all over the place on this thing. And the defendants, real quick, Hillary Clinton, the DNC Services Corp, Perkins Coy, Michael Suss, Mark Elias, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I read them all to you guys before. This is just one massive clusterfuck. If you look at this docket, it's everyone is just having a pissing match with everyone else. And, obviously there's motions for extension of time. But this looks like just an absolute fucking shitbox I would not want to be part of. Oh my God.
You got to ask yourself why a solo practitioner or quasi solo practitioner, I think the woman in New Jersey, is she on that case too? I think the way Trump fenced on New York, who sued Trump for libel, connected to the allegation of sexual assault, Trump denied it, and then she sued him saying that was libelous. I think that New Jersey lawyer represents him in that case as like his third or fourth lawyer.
Right. So the interesting part about this is Peter Tickton is his lead counsel, but I know Peter personally, and I know his firm personally, and his firm doesn't do this kind of work. They just don't.
They're local counsel.
They are
probably local counsel.
They are local counsel. And if you look at Michael, I'll go to you in a second, but if you look at one of the first filings after the complaint, you'll see, let me see it. So March 24th, the same day, filing number 6 is a admissions letter pro hoc vice for Alina Haba and Michael T. Medeo, who are that's the firm up in New Jersey. It's Haba and Medeo. So they came in immediately with Tickton. So Tickton was local counsel, and Alina Haba and Michael T. Medeo, a firm of 2, are going against some of these massive powerhouse firms.
Right, and my recollection is when that was filed that the reporting was that she was behind the drafting.
Yeah, So my understanding,
not the Florida firm, but her.
Right. So Peter and his firm are local counsel. I think she's behind it, but tell you what, she's got her hands full. She's got some massive big boy firms and some massive lawyers in here, and everyone is just. I mean, think about it: 252 filings, and you're still at the motion to dismiss, and nothing's been resolved yet.
Well, yeah, and consider the fact that a lot of the reason that they're in that situation is obviously President Trump is President Trump. He's got a 40-year history in litigation, all throughout the United States, not always ending pretty and not always ending on great terms with the law firms that represented him, but the big reason he's in that position is no law firms will represent him.
Right.
And I mean, look, like you said, DNC's paying. Well, I don't know if the DNC's paying that one. Hell, maybe she took that on a contingent fee. What do you think?
Right. Oh my! I mean, I'll tell you.
But he can't. But big firms. It doesn't matter who they're. It doesn't matter whether the lawyers are conservative or liberal. The problem is the big firms, other clients,
right?
In the corporate America, that will depart and take their business elsewhere from any firm that steps forward to represent Donald Trump.
The amazing thing, and I know Donald Middlebrooks, he's the judge who's handling the case. Middlebrooks is really involved in this case because they had 3 different magistrates working on the case. It was Matthewman, then it was McCabe. I'm sorry, then it was Reinhardt, then it was McCabe, and I thought it was the last one. So it was Matthewman, then it was, but I think there's another one now. So I think they're on to their 4th magistrate. But Middlebrooks, who is usually not involved in cases, usually kicks it down to his magistrates. He's doing a lot of paperless orders. He's doing a lot of orders in general, and there's just massive filings in this case. I mean, shit. If I was him, I wouldn't know which way is up. There is just, and some of these, given his paperless orders, he's even saying he doesn't know what the attorneys are asking for. He like, I'm looking at 43 where he's saying, I'm not really sure what counsel has asked for here, but if they're asking for this under this rule, then it's denied. However, it's without prejudice to ask again. And then plaintiff's motion to set aside the government's Westfall Act certification. The United States motion is denied with respect to that request. If that is the request,
Give me a headache.
Yeah, man. This is why I'll tell you what. This is why civil is civil, and it's a pain in the ass. But this is why lawyers make a boatload of money in civil. And last comment on this one, and we'll move on. I just want to go back to Julia here, just for some comments and some hands, because I know we all have a Monday morning here. But if Trump happens to get his butt kicked, and not really at the MTD stage, but let's talk about like the motion for summary judgment stage, or if he loses at trial, talk about massive attorney's fees. Massive attorney's fees in this case. He is a billionaire, but these are some big time defendants with some big time firms. And in civil, unlike criminal, there's a fee shifting statute.
Right.
So if you lose, which if there's 26 defendants and they all have lawyers billing out at $500 or $1,000 an hour, that's a lot of money. I mean, I have personally, in my move from criminal to civil, I have me and my firm, which is a pretty big firm. I mean, we've easily, and it's gone both ways. So I mean, I don't mean to this is not a brag. I have my firm has won well into the six figures in attorney's fees, so like 300,000, and we've also lost. And and again, when I say my firm, when we lose, obviously it's my client, not me, but my client owes 250,000 in attorney's fees, and this is nowhere near 26 defendants. I mean, maybe 2, 3, 4 defendants tops, 5 defendants tops. Maybe some cross claims, but nothing like this. This is massive. These would be the attorney's fees here for Trump would be in the millions, 20, 20, 30, 50 million if he lost this case. Just massive. I just really can't get over it. I knew when he filed it was massive. I mean, just looking at the pleading, the amount of people he named, you bring in racketeering, you bring in the Corrupt Organization Act, you bring in RICO. I mean, Ship, I'm sure that you did a couple because you did what I did, or at least for part of your career, you did what I did. Think about when we when we indicted, 5, 6, 7 guys, right? Or we indicted 10 guys, but then 3 or 4 of them fell out and pled, and we had a 5 defendant trial. What a clusterfuck that was, right? You got 5. You got 5 defendants. You got 5 lawyers that each of them can ask the same questions to your witnesses. Just
how do you have a trial? Yeah, how do you have a trial?
Right. So how do you have one? How do you have one with 20? 26? How do you have one? So that means every witness that goes up there is going to be cross-examined 25 times?
Well, that's the beauty of the civil case, though, is that, the federal rules, the Supreme Court in the interpretation of federal rules, the circuit courts have given almost carte blanche to trial judges in how to structure the presentation of evidence to the jury in a civil case. Make up whatever you'll rule. You'll get 40 hours.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but I remember my biggest one that I ever did was 7 people, and it took me 2.5 months. It was horrible, Ship. I after because most of our cases, I don't know if this is like a DOJ criminal secret, but most of our cases, Ship, and I think you can probably attest to this on drugs and guns, they don't go past a week. So you give me 7 defendants, on an actual RICO case, and it goes 2 months. Yeah, I needed like a year off.
Hey, let me mention this to you, and sometimes I feel like just you and I talking to each other without paying attention, appreciating the fact there are 150 people listening to us. But I made fun of this in writing, and I just mentioned to you. I'm certainly you didn't see it when the government prosecuted Roger Stone. The trial went 4 days. The government called 5 witnesses, and they had 2 AUSAs and 2 special counsel office prosecutors. 4 prosecutors.
Absolutely amazing.
To cover 5 witnesses in a 4-day trial. I mocked them really online over that. And that was brought by Mueller, the special prosecutor's office. One AUSA gave the opening, and the other USA gave the closing.
Yeah,
and the special prosecutor guys, they each examined 1 witness.
Yeah, it's such a joke. Yeah, Julia, have you heard anything before I go to Mira? Have you heard anything popping up with Durham, or anything new, or anything going on up there?
No, I have not. Because the Trump stuff has mostly been taking over. And on the Clinton lawsuit front, I just saw that they were using his own tweets, Trump's tweets against him in their filings to prove that statute of limitations was up. So I thought that was pretty clever, especially since we all love Trump's tweets and his reputation precedes him there.
I absolutely love his tweets. I mean, it's weird, and I think I probably speak for Ship on this one. It takes a special kind of person to do criminal. I mean, I'm over in civil now, and I'll be honest, I'm speaking out loud. Again, I'm still a government attorney, so I'm still doing. I'm still in the system, but if you love criminal, you just love criminal. And criminal just doesn't pay the way civil does. DOJ, you make a good living. You get a good locality rate bump as well. You get good pension, you get a good benefits. But I have 2 or 3 friends that make a killing doing criminal defense, and they all speak Spanish. Me, no habla or hablo. But I guess my point is this: is half of your clients get taken by the public, right? And that's really mostly in state court, right? So in federal, even more so, because federal is a court of limited jurisdiction. So there's less crimes that go to federal, and the public defenders there will take even more. A lot of them are illegal reentries, aggravated reentries, which just go nowhere. The PDs take care of it. But criminal wise, it's tough out there to do a criminal defense firm. I know a lot of friends that left the federal public defender's office, or even the state or the county PDs, went out on their own and came back. Because half of their clients, get taken up by the PD, right? They get arrested, they show up at first appearance, and they have an attorney there waiting for them, right? And a lot of people who commit, especially state crimes, they don't have a lot of money hanging around, which is why, these big firms will do white collar, right? Because white collar means money. But civil, you can make a killing in civil. Civil is, there's no free attorneys out there for civil. If you want to go sue someone, you got to go hire an attorney. And if you want, if you want to defend yourself in a civil case, which I highly recommend you do, and not get a default after 20 days, you should go get yourself an attorney as well, right? So that's where it is. But I think Ship has the same bug I have, which is you either love a criminal or you don't. I mean, some people think it's boring, some people hate it. I mean, I didn't enjoy those 2:00 in the morning phone calls of to an agent, which for him, we got to get the search warrant now. They're taking guns into the house, and my response is, well, they're okay. So they're bringing guns into the house, right? Yeah. oh, I can see the guns. I can see the guns. And I'm like, not going anywhere.
Be there in the morning.
Right. I'm like, they're not going anywhere, buddy. You just have what? You want us to sit out here all night? Yeah. You think I'm going to call the magistrate and say that felons have guns in the house? No. We'll wait till 8:00 in the morning and I'll call him then. I'm not calling him now. Oh, well, this is just a waste of manpower. You want us to sit on the house? And I'm like, well, I guess it's not that important to you then. And then they hang up, and after that they're going, fuck that guy, fuck crypto, motherfucker, fuck crypto. And I'm like, listen, it's only 4 or 5 hours away. Just sit on the house. It's not like they're gonna flush the fucking ARs down the toilet. They're still gonna be there in the morning. But yeah, I'm sure, Ship, from your response, I can tell that you've had the same ones. They're just like, because they don't want, because they work night shift, these guys, right? So they don't want to have to work in the morning. So, they're like, I want to do it now. And I'm like, well, sorry, I'm not going to wake up a federal magistrate because you see guns going in there, being held by felons. They will quickly now, obviously, if they're loading up a U-Haul van and they're leaving with them, maybe that's something different. But it's interesting, guys. It's interesting. It's just you kind of have to have the bug for it. And I have friends that do other stuff, and I don't know how they do it. Like, I have friends that do like commercial litigation and mergers and acquisitions, and I would rather have my balls kicked or flicked by Michael Dean on a 5-minute basis than have to deal with some of this merger, acquisition, business litigation, boring shit. It's like, who gives a fuck? Or bankruptcy. Oh my God, bankruptcy. You want to see vultures coming in to try to get the last of the money? Oh my God, bankruptcy attorney, the worst. Oh, well, my guy's a secured creditor, so, he should get more money than this. It's fucking horrible. Nothing like fighting over money. It's fucking lawyers at their worst. They're all fucking vultures.
For me, it was always about the jury trials. And I just used to laugh and mock, business litigators who would tell me about all the depositions they did.
Right. And they went to trial twice in 10 years when we go twice in 6 months.
Right. Yeah. That's why I did it. That's why I started actually the U.S. Attorney's Office in the civil division. I came out of a civil litigation law firm, got hired in the civil division, and then they didn't tell me until I was already working there that civil cases get tried before magistrates, not juries.
Right.
Because Congress doesn't really want to entertain the idea of juries giving away $11 trillion in tax right. money, to a plaintiff who sues the Department of Defense. So so they're all bench trials. That's like, I did like 5 of those in 2 years. It's like, well, I don't want to do this anymore. Listen, I want a jury trial. They pointed me down the hall. It's like, well, you got to go down to the criminal division if you want to do jury trials. So that's where I went.
Hey, Crypto, can we go to Mara's hand? And just so you know, some housekeeping, I'm having to go back and forth to host, co-host, whatever, and I can only put on my speaker when I minimize the screen or whatever. So just in case I'm not there.
Okay, why don't you just keep it on if you
want? Yeah, I'll try that. I just don't want to, interfere with the conversation. But Mara's been unbelievably patient.
Yeah, Mira, great to see you tonight. The floor is yours.
Hi.
How are you this evening?
I'm very well, thank you. I had a very quick thing to say.
Sure.
Number one, what bothers me the most about this whole fracas is that they waited 565 days to go down there and do the raid. Number two, if you'll remember when Herman Cain ran for president, my father was a very good friend of Herman's, and Herman helped me with my one of my grad projects, my MBA project. And it wasn't the wife, the scandal about his wife. He and his wife were wonderful. It was his own party that took him out. And so I think that if that all of this, it might shake out that it's Trump's own party that is doing that to him because they don't want him to run. They're tired of all this mess. And you made a comment about that if he runs in 2024, that they will no longer pay his legal bills. So I think that
Right.
it might be that he just tries to stay the cheerleader and face of the party. Yeah, but I think that maybe we might not actually see him run, but he just might take more of a leadership role in the party, because I think that the majority of senators and congressmen are going to think they might be the ones thinking him. And number
Mm-hmm.
three, my question was, if he is pig-headed enough to run, and they're not going to pay his attorney's fees, would he be able to file chapter 7, I believe, on those debts? And that's my question. I'll get off to hear the answers. Thank you.
Sure. Great to see you, Amira. I'll go the last one, and then I'll come back to Julia on him running part. So the last part is, unfortunately, I don't know the answer. So what can be discharged and what can't be discharged? I know that he currently has litigation that's pending that the RNC is paying for. The cases I'm not familiar with, so I apologize on that. But I know that there is pending litigation with him, and that the RNC is paying for that. But for him, for someone of Trump's stature to go into bankruptcy, it would be some sort of reorganization, as opposed to what I believe would be Chapter 7. And Julia, this is a question that we're always going to have, and even when he runs, I think of it, and I think the day that we vote for him, we're going to have it. Is because you're more politically in tune and in sync with this, and maybe hopefully BY can chime in as well. We definitely know there's people within the GOP that don't like him, don't want him to run. Um, you know, I think that he's going to. I mean, this is just me. I think he's going to run. So I guess two questions for you, Julia. One is, do you think there's a scenario where he doesn't run, even especially after this? I mean, do you think there's because what I'm seeing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm seeing is us, right? And us, when I say us, it's MAGA, right? And it's us, where really no matter what he does, and not whatever he may do, but we want him to run. We're going to vote for him, right? And then there's the rest of the GOP, which may not be in tune with us. And I don't know if we're out of tune with mainstream them, or they're out of tune with mainstream us. I haven't figured that out yet. So, is there's always a chance of anything, right, Julia? But
Yeah, I would say that they're
what
out
do
of
you think?
tune with us. It's really, we've kind of left them behind. That's my opinion. And MAGA it's the current movement, and that's what the people want. And the elected representatives, they're kind of more of the elitists, not necessarily all of them, but they better get behind it or they're going to be left behind. And they know it, though. The Republican
Right.
Party knows that. They can't dump Trump. He is currently leading in all of the polls, and he by it's like 70% to like DeSantis will often, and we're talking straw polls here. CPAC was the most recent one. It was like Trump got almost 69% at the Dallas one, I think, to DeSantis like 23%. So Trump is the de facto leader of the Republican Party, and certainly of whether Republicans like it or not.
But you're right. She's right. There are definitely GOP weasels on the sideline waiting for Trump to get weak enough to pounce. And they probably got excited about this until his popularity went up. Now they're screwed. They can't vocalize their, they can't attack him now. He's untouchable as a candidate, as a leader, or it'll be a political suicide.
So let me ask Julia then, and BY, so both you guys can help me out. I'm not familiar. I don't know how they work with the straw polls. So maybe you guys can explain it to me and everyone else who's here. But A, how they work, and B, is it more of the, and I don't call us the fringe, and that's not what I meant when I say fringer. But what I'm trying to say is people who go to CPAC or Turning Point, right? Those are people that are energized. That's us. Those are people that are in tune. Those are people that are going to vote, right? So when he wins the CPAC or the Turning Points, whatever it is, the straw poll, is that representative of us or is that representative of GOP in general? I guess is my question.
GOP in general would definitely be a little bit lower. CPAC would be more representative of people that are super involved in politics.
Okay.
And that was an anonymous poll from recall reading. So that would be more representative of maybe like a generic, if you want to call it, like a Republican or conservative would be, I think, I just read this in an RSBN article today, and that was, so you had like a large majority of people that want Trump to run. It was something like 71% now, which is massive. But that doesn't necessarily mean that every single one of those people would actually vote for him, because of course you could end up having like a packed primary. So 58%, I believe, saying they would vote for him in a Republican primary if it were held today. So that's different from the 71% that actually want him to run. They're saying, yeah, you should go for it. Doesn't mean that Trump's going to be my guy. And now to your question about, is there anything that would actually make Trump not run? I'm thinking possibly a midterm loss. It would have to be something, I think, massive. So I guess we would have to lose the House and the Senate, and it seems very, very, very unlikely we're going to lose the House. That would be a massive. That would be a huge shock to me, and I think a lot of people. So I don't see that happening whatsoever.
Hey, Jules, I have a question for you. And then after that, Crypto, can we do some housekeeping on the podcast, please?
Yes.
So Jules, can you do, because I know you're the best at doing this. And, I won't go into my own personal thing. I think you guys know, but, when we say MAGA, which is basically, make America great, etc., America first, really. And, that falls even in line with a lot of what a lot of independent people believe. We need to get out of all these foreign wars. We need to break these ties with China and our economy, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So for the people in the room that, I think it's most of us, but I want maybe you can explain what you feel is the difference, because, just basically the difference between this, MAGA movement, which gets completely maligned, and, we know all the rhetoric that comes with supposedly what it means. So can you divide the GOP and what, you feel this MAGA movement is really about, for some clarification?
Separating out, you're saying that the GOP and MAGA?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're talking about the difference between, I believe, MAGA and GOP, right? And to me, I'll just make it simple. GOP is this old group, the guys in the back room smoking cigars, doing deals with people that do not put America first, geopolitically and economically, and it's just the average person in America. And this movement, which you can, it is what it is. Trump, I've heard many people, even on the left, say this, that what Trump did was say, listen, these people, including the GOP, they don't care about you, right? They almost hate you. They don't care about your day to 9 to 5 job, et cetera, et cetera. And really all Trump did is come out and say, I care about you. That's it. I care about you, and I'm going to try to do what I can to make your lives better. And fuck China, fuck the old school, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So I'm just saying, you're much more eloquent at it. Can you explain the difference between MAGA and the old GOP?
Well, I mean, I would bet at least the GOP, when they run for an office, there is no difference because they're campaigning on a lot of similar things. But when they actually get into office, they're actually just representative of themselves. They're not representative of their constituents. But a lot of people have, wised up to that. They've become aware of that. And Trump has exposed that. He's also given people a voice. He's taught us to kind of speak up and act a little more like the left in, demanding representation and speaking out for what we want. And when it comes down to it, MAGA, it's a movement. It's not a specific person, despite the left trying to just pin on Donald Trump, although I would say some people do say it is Donald Trump, but it means things like, smaller government, more freedom, stronger borders. At its base, I would say just foundational American principles, lower taxes, a better economy. But really, and I think the old GOP, or if you want to just call them the GOP period, what they would do was be more politically correct. And they would try to reach across the aisle and they would work with the left. But that would be the death of us every time. Because do you ever see the left reaching across the aisle to work with us? It's incredibly rare. I see it in cinema. Okay. But, how long does that last? And I said, when they did work with us briefly, I said, there's going to come a time, very quickly, when they will disappoint us. So we can be glad in this moment, but get ready for that disappointment. And sure enough, boom, here it comes, and in a massive way. So, yeah, but the old GOP would it be politically correct, and look where that has gotten us. Everything
Yeah.
that's happened in the last few years, or even 5-10 years, that it's actually been stewing for much, much, much longer, and it's truly unfortunate. I'm talking about wokeism, and all of that. That's really led to our downfall, because we never spoke up. We would constantly try to work with the other side. You have people like Mitch McConnell who are saying, but no, we need to, let's find some common ground. Let's work with them. No, the time is over for finding common ground. The left doesn't find common ground with us. The left screams and shouts and throws hissy fits until they get their way. And now we need to be like that. And that's what the MAGA movement is. That's what America First is, because if we aren't like that, we will lose America.
And real quick, thank you, Jules. Real quick, Baby Yoda, maybe you can speak to this. One of the reasons that I supported Trump, so I believe he did his best to follow through, but was the geopolitical aspect of basically, like, he was one of the first conservatives, if you will, Republicans, whatever, to come out and say, we're done with these foreign wars. We're done with spending money in NATO. We're done with protecting all these other countries that do not provide for us, that in the long run don't even care about, the American, whatever, America as it is. So, Baby Yoda, I mean, I think you understand that a little bit more on a geopolitical sense, and even to the fact where he was trying to pull people out of Syria and Iraq, or Afghanistan, of course, and our own military, what we kind of call the deep state or the establishment, our own military went behind his back, basically a coup, and lied to him about numbers coming out, and they would not allow him to pull the troops out, which would have been a benefit to him, of course, maybe for the election, et cetera, et cetera. But Baby Yoda, can you speak to that part maybe?
Well, yeah, we've talked about this before, so I'll just simplify it. Trump went back to first principles. Is it good for America? Is it in his first interest? He didn't say like, oh, I hate these foreign wars, and start there from some complex, geopolitical philosophy. He basically looked at things like, does a 20-year war in Afghanistan where we spent $3 trillion, is that in America's best interest? Have we accomplished anything? No, it's stupid. And then there's these things about like the GOP, the rhinos, the establishment, as Julia was saying, they have this philosophy of, oh, we have to compromise or, go along, and totally disagree. Gridlock is good. If the government is doing nothing, that's awesome. And also to Julia's point, Ayn Rand had this great quote that was basically, in any compromise between food and poison, only death can win. And every time our piece of shit, rhino, poll testing, weasel establishment GOP think, oh, we've got to reach across the aisle, we're giving away every time. The left doesn't budge. They never give away anything. And so how many deals do you have to do when you give 10% to the other side, to the big guys? How many times do you have to do that before you've moved 75% over into what they want? So it's just insane. But yeah, Trump first principles, American exceptionalism, doing what's in America's best interest. And a lot of what you said goes back to the whole Eisenhower, where on his way out, he warned of military industrial complex that if you don't do what they want, they will effectively try to end you.
Yeah. Yeah, so did Kennedy, and we saw what happened. Crypto, can you do a little podcast
Yeah, yeah,
promotion?
of course, of course. So what I'm going to do, guys, is it's 9:50. I'm going to do a little podcast promo here, and then we're going to hit some hands. So if you're in the speaker box, please put your hand up. If you want to speak, please come on up. And then I'm going to go to the hands, and then we're going to go to our speakers here. So we got some pods lined up, guys. So let me just go through what I have that I've been able to send out so far. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. So I'll set it up on Podbean, but it's our podcast tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, which we do a live cast. So you guys are always welcome. But there is a Twitter group. There's a group in general called Gays Against Groomers, and they are conservative, and they're coming on our pod to speak. We'll be speaking with their leadership. That's tomorrow night, August 15th, 7 p.m. Eastern time here. As I continue on, August 18th, we have Dr. Bowden. She is the doctor in Texas who is suing the Department of Health over the whole thing with COVID when she was giving ivermectin and everyone was getting healthy, and they were going to see her, and she was saying don't get the vaccine, and she was giving other remedies like the stuff that Joe Rogan took and everyone else and some other people. And she's also filed a $25 million defamation lawsuit. So we're going to talk about that. That's August 18th. This week's on Thursday at 7 o'clock. And then as I go further, we have Bricksuit, who due to my mess up on last week, we are currently rescheduling with him. August 22nd, so that's next Monday, we have Professor Margot Cleveland and Shipley, who was just in here, on breaking down the Trump scenario and where he goes on an indictment and what we have given the search warrant. And if you don't follow Margot, it's Margot, guys. She's a professor. She's a 25-year career federal law clerk, which means she's absolutely brilliant. She lives in the federal system. She's been a career law clerk for judges. So if you don't follow her, follow her. She probably knows more about the federal system and being in it for so long than me and Chip combined. As I move forward, we have on August 25th, we have Alexander, and I'd have to explain that to you guys. But August 26th, we have J.R. Majewski, who is the Ohio Republican candidate who's going to hopefully go to Congress. He won the Republican when Trump went to Ohio. He was there, and he was speaking with Trump there, so that will be fun. And as I go into that, my last comment is, because we have some new people coming in the spaces these days as we're expanding further, it's weird how we kind of like stay stagnant, then we kind of explode and expand and move things. But if you guys haven't, if you can, click on my face, and it will bring you to, and Paige, I'll bring you up right now. Just give me a second. If you click on my face, guys, that will bring you to my bio page or just my Twitter page. Underneath my bio, you can hit subscribe. That brings you to our newsletter. We only send out the newsletter on two things. One is when a big pod is coming, and the other one is when a pod is done. So when it's done, meaning, we don't do a lot of editing. We're on Podbean. So if you guys go to Podbean, and if you look for Two Feds and the Truth, you can follow us on there. Otherwise, as soon as we're done, it goes out to all the platforms. So the biggest recording platform that people listen to us on is Apple Podcast by far. But if you go to my page and click on subscribe, you'll get our newsletter, which will have a write-up that I do of the podcast, the actual podcast itself, because you get it first. And then you get a link to the person who is with us for the podcast. So if you guys can do that, if you haven't done it, it'll take you 10 seconds to go to my page and do that. And the last thing, I'll make the announcement I don't know if this was what Michael was requesting, and there's no promises to be made here. It's and I'm bringing everyone up right now who wants to speak. We're going to do a lightning round of like a minute or two
Hey,
for each person.
Crypto, I was not insinuating that, and I would hold off.
Yeah, you think so? I mean, I spoke to her again today.
I would be careful with that because that's too big to mess up.
Well, I mean, listen.
Let's just tease the audience and say,
hold on.
no. With me and Jules, I think me and Jules are voting against you.
Let me read this to you. This is me.
So, Jules, me and you have nothing. Our vote doesn't matter.
Hold on. No, it does. It does. Let me read this to you. Hey, thanks for the update. We are really looking forward to when blank can come on. Thanks for the update. Yes, this is the other person now. Yes, the team is not supposed to work this weekend. His marching orders because it's going to be a busy week. So tomorrow I'm going to nail it down. It'll be great. I wrote back, thanks. So my point was going to be on this, but this is in the works. Or no, listen. I will take the vote squarely and accurately of it. And if BY knows what we're talking about, BY gets an equal vote. We'll go Julia, Michael, BY. And if the vote is no, then the vote is no. I don't make that announcement that this person is probably coming on the podcast. Obviously, this person is so monumental that I'm not going to say this person's definitely coming on the podcast and then I have 20,000 people unfollow me, right? I'm not going to say that. What I'm going to say is this person is lined up. This person has said yes. We're trying to get a date. There's no promises. But you know what? It's out of my hands. It's up to Julia, Michael, and BY, and I'm fine either way. I understand the person is so big that if I mention the name,
Crypto, that BY is just going to vote whatever Jules does anyway.
Nope. I'll go first, Crypto. Okay. My worry is that there'll be some big news like an indictment or something, and then the show will take on a life of its own. In other words, they could have interviews scheduled with Tucker Carlson or whoever, and if the right news comes out, they're just going to clear the schedule and do nonstop nonstop programs of their own.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So BY, we'll go with you first. Do I make? We have how many people? 164 people right now. Most of them are usually here. Do I make any sort of announcement tonight on this person to a tentative agreement, or do I not?
Not when you have a date and it's less than a week out. I say go for it and let's plaster the advertising. Okay,
so the answer is going to be no then, because I see Julia with the heart. So Julia has agreed with that, right?
This will be our biggest guest ever.
Yeah. This will be massive.
Really big.
Yeah, massive. Okay, and Michael has already warned me, so the answer will be not. The team has voted.
But soon.
So. Yeah,
maybe we could do a special space announcing it once you get a confirmation.
Yeah, we should. I mean, like this blows away the Kyle Rittenhouse and Nick Sandman.
Absolutely.
I'm extremely excited. That's why I'm kind of like, it's like my fingers crossed. Like the first time I caught a touchdown pass, I think I ran 20.
This is way better.
Well, no, but I ran 20 feet. I ran 20 feet past the back of the end zone just to make sure I scored.
This is one of my favorite people. So
yeah, let's just say no matter what, I would say it's about as big as either Alex Jones, Hillary Clinton.
Shut up, Michael.
It's really as big. It's
not Nancy Pelosi, people.
No, it's not Nancy Pelosi. It really is as big as you can get. I mean, it's as big as you can get. So, if people want to start tweeting, who is this person, and take guess, I won't respond, but maybe Michael will. I don't know. By the way, since we've mentioned this tonight, someone should probably text Mark and tell him to shut the hell up. because Mark is going to wind up responding to someone. But yeah, this would be this would be amazing. This person there, I'll just say it like this, and this is the only thing I'm going to say, and I think Michael would be okay with this. This person is so big, I would not trust the platform to have a Twitter space with this person. I would make sure it's on our podcast. I would not trust Twitter to record it or have it properly. I wouldn't trust Twitter. Twitter space.
Well,
not
are they the reason I brought
hackers to mount a distributed denial of service.
The reason I brought up Alex Jones is, are they even allowed on Twitter?
I'm pretty sure that's a no.
No, I'm sorry. I think I muted myself. No, actually, so speaking to his or her team, the person said that if we wanted to do Twitter, that this person could do it in a variety of formats. But I said that this was essentially so /important /big to us that we don't want Twitter to have it. We don't want Twitter to record it.
Yep.
We want no part of Twitter with this. So this will be, So I said that we would just have it on our platform. And
I just hope he or she has an iPhone.
Yeah, right.
You also better do a little due diligence, because I'm being honest here. Is he even allowed, or are they even allowed on Podbean?
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is we paid a good amount of money to have our platform stored and recorded by Podbean. We're not bringing on fucking Pablo Escobar here. This person is massive, and I don't see. I don't see why. We'll see. To be quite honest, again, this person, large, importance. Some people love or hate he or she. Some people.
We might not even all be here without them.
Right. Exactly.
And we will make We will make recordings at the time, so we have multiple ways to.
Right. So yes, I definitely think BY is definitely smart on that. So I will record it. So what I'll do is I download them immediately, so I can get them into the editing process. Just for some of the volume and some of the pauses, or But yeah, BY, if you want to do something like that, just to record on the side, and then I'll download immediately. But my fear is if all this works out, that we go to all the platforms and all of a sudden Apple Podcast takes it down or something like that.
I'll record it live in Camtasia Studio. It works really well.
Perfect. Yeah. I would.
It's gonna be awesome.
I would not be surprised if Apple we're like unknown on Apple, right? Even though we're really liked in Argentina apparently, and Germany. I would
go figure.
Yeah, right. Oh God. It's weird.
No, that's in America.
So yeah,
correct.
So there's a thing called pod status, and they will keep track of your downloads and all that and where you are. And we're actually in top 15 in Argentina, and I think top 80 or something like that in Germany. So I'm trying to get the German chancellor on and the Argentinian president to fly us out first class on German dollars, if whatever they have, or Argentinian what the fuck they have there, and
Euro.
The euro, and to fly us out on taxpayer money to do a live show out there. But that is another thing is, so we have multiple jumps to get this over with, which is we need to solidify his or her presence. Then we need to hope that the podcast goes well, meaning that it doesn't get shut down. And then 3 is when we post it, that the unknown two feds and the truth, which we're not, short of like us in here, we're not like fucking world known. We put the person's name in the title maybe, then
That's
they
all it
take it,
takes.
and then they take it down. Right. And then they're like, oh no, we can't have this person.
Mainstream media is going to be listening in on that one, I can tell you.
Yeah. So yeah. So
But we could also solicit questions from the audience beforehand, ask people what they would want to ask this person.
Right. We could.
Yeah, that's why I kind of mentioned the week once it's set.
Yeah. Once we have it set, say that, they're coming on in a week, like what would you want to ask them?
Could you imagine though, if they go if Apple goes out of their way to find us, like this little podcast that's been going on 5 months, and they're like, I mean,
but the feds
take
part
it down.
should that should save us, right?
Well,
they're feds, like they're good.
And getting canceled is the best publicity ever. We just go on Rumble and make note that we were banned.
Yeah, well,
it's so funny, guys. Like I reached out to Michael Malice even. I said, "Hey, don't let the two feds thing deter you."
Right. No, I think what may happen really is if this thing comes through and then we go and put it out and get canceled, we may wind up like, well, obviously Julia and Mark would be on, then I'd be like wearing my mask. And they'd be like, so guys, how did you get this guy on? And then Apple took you down, and we're like, yeah, Tucker, we don't know what happened. And the next thing we know is we're making like the rounds on Tucker. Are we going to do Hannity or are we going to skip him?
Fuck Hannity.
Okay, so we don't do Hannity.
Not before Kathy Barnett. That's what I'll say.
Right. Yeah. Right. Fuck him. Fuck him.
Okay. Are we doing the Ingram angle?
After, I don't know how I feel after the
Tucker's the one that goes after everybody.
That's true. All right. So cooler heads have prevailed, and there'll be announcements. There'll be an announcement hopefully next week or the week after. But yeah, you're right, BY. I think with midterms and search warrants and
other
lawsuits and other things. It could be a game of
certain commentary.
Right. It could be a game of cat and mouse of getting this person actually recorded. So we'll see how it goes. All right. So what I'd like to do, guys, is Julia, I'm going to go to you. So right now we have if you want to speak, please put your hand up for me. And we have Mira, I have J Murph, I have Damien, and then I have Digital. So Mira, we're going to come to you last. Julia, if you could bounce to the hands. Guys, if you can please keep it to 60, 90 seconds. So we have 4 people. And then after that, we'll go BY, Michael, Julia from there. So Julia, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, sure. All right, go ahead, J Murph. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was just going to say, I think that the beauty of Trump was not just that he woke people up to the corruption within the DOJ, but the corruption within the GOP. I mean, it's obvious. The fact that they're not standing up right now and saying this is absurd, release the affidavit. There's no excuse for that. And so I think we got complacent as conservatives, thinking that, things were working fine and the left was fighting all along. And so we lost a lot of ground. We need to be active participants. I'm running for school board now. I never wanted to be anywhere near politics. I used to be an assistant prosecutor. What's happened to the Justice Department, the justice system in our country is really disgusting. So I really, people need to go to the polls. They need to work the polls. They need to do everything because we are so far behind the game. And the one thing that they really want from us right now is violence. And that's the one thing that can't happen. Peaceful protesting at this point can really happen because they're going to do something. They'll false flag it. And we'll be back to them screeching about the dangerous MAGA people all over again. So that was pretty much it.
Thanks, J Murph. Julia, the one thing I wanted to make a comment on, which J Murph kind of triggered, is, in 2024, another big thing that's on the line, which for us is a little more personal because we happen to, we don't know any of them prior to this, but we've been a part of it since it happened, and we've listened to a lot of people as opposed to, kind of the other side that's, kind of label them like Nazis or terrorists. But, another big thing on the line for Trump and for people that we know and we've got a chance to speak to are the J6ers, right? There's a lot of people
Yes.
that are either being held or that are going to go to trial and be found guilty and going to go to prison. And if there's any chance, like, I'll just speak out loud because I'm not his attorney, and I happen to like the guy. I've met him. I like him, Richard Beagle Barnett, right? Beago's in a tough spot. He's got a great attorney. I like the man, but you've got pictures of him sitting on Pelosi's desk. He's got an uphill battle, and I think they offered him like 5 to 7 years on a plea deal, and he said no. I think his trial is set for October, and I really like Bigo. I just like him. I don't think he's not violent. He was sitting at Pelosi's desk, and a lot of stuff's going to come out in his trial. If he's found guilty, which DOJ is unanimously kicking everyone's ass in a DC jury right now, he's going to get 10 or 15 years. And that's just fucking for being pushed in or allowed into the Capitol building and sitting at someone's desk. That's fucking insane. So there's a lot of people, about 800 of them, which I don't know what Trump would do exactly, but if there is a hope for any sort of fair justice, it's not coming out of the DC juries, nor is it coming out of the DC US attorneys. It needs to come from Trump to help. And whether that's
100%.
right, and whether that's putting them on probation, giving them a chance, or I don't know what it is. A lot of different things for a lot of different people, but they're getting arrested, and all of them kind of hang in the balance right now, waiting for 2024. So
Yeah, Trump has said that his heart is with the persecuted J6ers, the political prisoners. He's also said that they are political prisoners of war, and you're absolutely right in that they're really their only hope comes from him, because a lot of politicians, a lot of elected representatives are pretty silent on this. There are some that do make some efforts, but unfortunately it's not enough, or they don't have enough help to be able to affect any change. So Trump would be the answer to their prayers. And he has actually all but said that he would commute the sentences of those who are nonviolent. I think he even used the terminology that they were treated unfairly. So at the end of the day, bottom line, Trump needs to get back into office. So I'm completely on board with you there. And that was a great point. So let's jump to, I think, Digital Whirlwind. You're next.
Hey, thank you.
Then Damien.
Appreciate the offer here. I think the question still stands is who will run with him. I really wouldn't worry about those 800 people because he's still got 2 years. I don't think Trump really saves them. System saves them. And Trump's always been about fair, but he's also been about process. He believes in the process, and it's shown for the last 5 years. So I think that's kind of out of the window at the moment. I think the red wave. I don't know. I think the powers with people and parties are they're misleading, and I'm Canadian, and so I definitely understand that. I just think there's still more time, and more people need to understand their position they're in, and I look forward to everybody going through that process. I think it'll be really enlightening, and I would just ask one lawyer or any lawyer, just an honest question. So if the FBI suggested the safes, and then Trump asked them to install the safes, um, I think he would understand that they would know what eventually would be in the safes. Is it possible that he declassified purposely certain files with that in mind to maybe allow for disclosure in a open court setting? And I'll just leave it at that.
Thanks, Digital. Yeah, I mean, from my understanding, there's been a lot of takes on this, and I'm just not well versed enough of whether or not he asked to declassify um, these documents that he had, or as a matter of law, when he took them, they became declassified. There's a bunch of arguments about that, but I do recall Mark mentioning something, and maybe BY or Michael can help me. What was the thing that was installed at Mar-a-Lago to house confidential information? Was it a skiff? Was That's what it was called, guys?
Yeah, it's a skiff.
Okay, and what did that stand for again? I forgot what it stood for.
Secure compartmentalized information facilities.
Okay, so like there,
Basically, what it is, crypto, is that we know Mar-a-Lago was his residence when he was in the White House. So even think about wherever the Obamas lived during the White House and Biden, etc. Well, when they go there, they have to have a secured place because the work continues. So they're still going to have meetings. They're still going to have to go over geopolitical issues, et cetera, top secret stuff. So you have to have that installed. You understand.
right. So unlike Hillary Clinton, who without permission put a server in her bathroom, this was all done on the up and up. They knew about it. Everyone knew about it. And, this was not something that was any sort of secret. So, again, I don't really understand the big hubbub, which is why, as we said when we started tonight, I really want to see the probable cause narrative, because if this is really all about getting back 12 or 13 or 15 boxes that they already knew that were there, and they already knew what the items were, this is a big fucking nothing burger. So that's why I'd really like to see the probable cause narrative. I mean,
well, real quick, crypto, the other big thing, just not to even get into all the minutia with the Clinton stuff, which was extremely illegal, but the point being is Trump is a president, right? And we've
right.
all been through, we've all talked about this. And this goes for Obama. This actually started, I believe, with Bush. Maybe Baby Yoda can speak to this, but during the Iraq, Bush administration, there's even stories of where Bush would have a meeting with, 7 people. 2 of them would have top secret clearance. And he would literally be, any president can literally say, okay, for this meeting, you now have that clearance in regards to these documents, etc. But the point being is, the difference with Clinton was she wasn't the president, right? She doesn't have that authority to say, she has the top secret documents because she's Secretary of Defense, etc. That's fine, but you're not allowed to have them in your own personal residence, which can be hacked and were hacked by other foreign services. That's a fact. So it's just different. It's different from he's the president, and he has the ability to say these documents are classified or not.
Right. No, that's a great point. And the other thing I'll mention about her, which I mentioned last night when I was up because I couldn't sleep, is obviously we all know about Benghazi, right? And she's just one mistake after another every fucking time she makes a decision, people die. Julia, can I kick it over to your hands?
Yep.
Thanks.
All right, let's jump to Damien. Go ahead.
Hey guys, real quick, if you want to check for like a GOP versus MAGA acid test, just look at Ukraine support. That was, for me, that was the one that really kind of hit home, where you could see where people were going to fall. And I just thought that was amazing that literally, months after we pull out of Afghanistan, the military industrial complex goes to work on more money. I mean, it's just, you can't even, it's not even funny in some weird way. Here's a side thing. I was just curious if anyone had thoughts on what do you think Ann Coulter's and Mike Cernovich's kind of turn on Trump? What do you think the real source of that was, if you know or even care? And finally, you guys, a teaser is like maybe a minute, not 20 minutes. Thanks a lot.
I know, Damien. We just couldn't help ourselves. I think
I got you.
Yeah, I think we're all just so giddy amongst ourselves that we just kept babbling on. But no, I don't know. I don't know. So hopefully someone else up here. I know at some point, there's been a lot of people that have turned on Trump. But does anyone know the whole Coulter and Cernovich beef that happened there? I don't know it, guys. No, no one.
Nah, basically culture. I mean, I say this respectfully. I mean, she doesn't have much of a career right now, right? She's been through the ups and downs. I think she has a podcast, whatever she's doing right now. And, she's just trying to get some more influence, I believe.
Coulter was always about herself. Actually, Coulter, she was really about illegals. And so she didn't think Trump moved fast enough or hard enough. But Trump felt he had to work a little bit within the system, and that's why she abandoned him. Cernovich is the one that was always about himself. And what Cernovich would do was he would kiss ass and act like a conservative for 2 or 3 months, and then he would go contrarian to give himself street cred, and then go back to normal. So he's just kind of an asshole.
I guess my last thought process before we move on is, is there anything, Trump had to learn some stuff in his 4 years of the White House, right? Is there anything that he knows that if these guys push him too far, he can be like, you know what? Aliens fucking exist. I went to Area 51. I saw them. They're real. Everyone's been fucking lying to you. And UFOs, we have one over there. Someone took it for a test drive. They've been lying to you for another 70 years. Like, there's got that, like, no one wants him to get out. Like, there's got to be something. I mean, I would use that as leverage. Like, listen, you never know. You don't want me to run. I don't know. That whole alien thing was kind of tough to forget about. I don't know. I mean, there's got to be something there that he knows that I would use.
Well, I won't go into this much, crypto, because we just had our little thing about the UFO thing. But this is another issue with kind of this establishment, this deep state thing, whatever you want to call it. The Clintons and Podesta were were huge UFO people. They met with many people, Stephen Greer, all these people. They wanted that stuff released. Bill Clinton was a big UFO guy, and so on. The point I'm trying to make is that you can't even lessen it the security clearance on the stuff if you can't get to the documents, right? Like even the president can't just get to the documents. They're shoveled away into the Pentagon and other places where you could take 3 years going through millions of files to try to find it, to take it to the president. But even that, this deep state thing, whatever, that you're not getting your hand type of stuff. So the president himself, all presidents, are still limited on their access to stuff.
Well, I mean, on day one, if I was elected, I'd be like, "Show me the aliens, let's go," and I take my iPhone, and
they've all tried it. I mean, Obama and Clinton joked on many late night talk shows, like, hey, I mean, the Clintons are open about it, like, hey, we tried and they won't let us have it.
Right. I'd be like, just take me over there. And they're like, sir, we have work to do. No. Just listen, nothing will get done in the next 4 years until you take me there. So if you want anything done in the next 4 years, take me over there. And then they're like, I can't take your iPhone in. I'd be like, no, sorry. My iPhone's coming in. I'm currently live streaming on Twitter. So let's go. Let's see it. Everybody wants to know. But anyway, I think we all saw Independence Day. So if you saw that movie, I'm pretty sure it's just like that. I mean, I would guess, right?
Didn't they show clips of that to Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes. It was so stupid.
What a year it's been.
Oh my! That was a real administrative law hearing. That was an actual federal administrative law judge.
I thought that was a joke when I saw that trending on Twitter.
It was like a red flag law.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, let's go to Dark Brandon. What are your thoughts?
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I think when Trump got in, he thought he could work with these people, and then he kind of figured out, like, even example, the bump stock thing. He did the bump stock ban, thinking that, okay, I'm going to work with these guys, which he was trying to get suppressors and short barreled rifles, short barreled shotguns off the NFA. Well, obviously, we know that went nowhere. Now he knows, okay, these people don't play around, they're dirty. They all went to Epstein Island, all that stuff. And I think now it's kind of like the gloves are off, and they know that, the deep state does, and they want to stop him at all costs. And I believe, without a shadow of a doubt, that Trump has the Epstein logbook in his possession, and he's like, look, you want to screw around, I'll release this. I guarantee you he has it, and he knows it. And I think he's just kind of storing a few things like that, kind of like his ammo. But I think if he gets back in 2024, which it'll be a fight, it'll be an absolute dogfight. He gets in, the gloves are off.
So, Julia, thanks, Dark. I appreciate that. Dark just brought up a quick topic, and then just want to bounce around. I don't like to talk about this too often, just because it brings it up, and I'm not, people have their own ideas, and people are just weird, right? And I'm not saying people in this room, but people are just weird. So I don't really like to mention this thing. I talk about it offline with people. And this is really for across the board of two feds and the truth. Like Julia, Michael, BY. I'm trying to bring Johnny up, but he's not here. We haven't spoken about this, and I purposely avoided the topic online. So we'll just make this brief, but they're trying to do everything they can legally, and I think the next thing and the last thing they can do is indict. Do you think that they go rogue on that? And I mean, do I have to explain going rogue any further?
That would be helpful.
Okay.
They're going to assassinate him.
Yeah, I didn't want. Yeah, that's what I was going. I was going with. Do you think they pull like an assassination attempt?
Truthfully, I don't know. I mean, that theory's been floating around,
right?
And frankly, I'm not sure how far they're willing to go. What we're seeing now is honestly crazy to me. It's simultaneously shocking and not shocking. I hear a lot of people saying things like, "Of course, it's not shocking. You had to know they were going to do this," and it's like, well, I mean, really, if you'd asked me, would this be happening? Would I see this happening like 5 years ago or even a year or two ago? No, it's pretty wild, the lengths to which they're willing to go to persecute a certain political party and to prevent someone from getting back in office. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I hate to even consider that as a possibility.
Yeah, I didn't, and I take the same platform that you do, that I would have never thought some of this stuff would have even been a possibility.
Like the Whitmer kidnapping plot?
Yeah, like I would have never thought that some of this stuff really would have been possible. But here we sit with, Steve Bannon getting tried on a jury trial. You got
within 30 days, like they acted so quickly.
Yep. Right. And then they didn't try others.
Right. So it's like all this stuff, and then
selective.
Like I would have taken, you could have given me, the Johnny Dice odds of Mar-a-Lago ever being raided, and I would have said no fucking way.
Yeah.
And when we had Julie Kelly on our podcast, who's going to come back on in a couple of weeks, when she was saying Trump's getting indicted, I'm like, Julie, you're fucking nuts. And in 2 weeks later, Mar-a-Lago is getting raided. So now I'm like, shit, it's probably right. It's just all these things that I would have never thought were even possible. Like it's, the whole, I'm sorry, BY, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, we thought the indictment was possible just because then they could blame a grand jury for it. But this search warrant, they can't point to anybody except the DOJ choosing.
Yeah. And I mean, I I don't do it right now, but I'm very well versed in the whole reasonable versus possible thing, right? Because that's how I made my living for over a decade, right? Anything's possible, but what's reason? I didn't even think, if you would have told me, is it even possible that they're going to raid Mar-a-Lago? I'd be like, no fucking way. They're going to raid fucking 45's house down here? No way. And here we are. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, and then you take it a step further, is you have people tossing around the other word that's like the unmentionable word that you don't talk about, which is like civil war, right? All these words that are being tossed out, but it's like, how far do you go until it's almost like from they want to burn down the system from the inside? What are you supposed to do if the unthinkable happens? Like,
What's acceptable anymore?
right?
Where's the line? What's even normal?
Yeah, I don't know where it is.
Feels like
I mean,
we're living in some
it proves
alternate
that
timeline.
deranged people do crazy things. This is nothing less than derangement because it made Trump more popular. It's not even necessarily in the Dems' best interest, but they were so deranged they couldn't stop themselves.
Right.
Well, and also, that just recently, in the last few days, I believe, like on MSNBC or whatever, which is it's just so despicable, some of the things that they do. But they literally had a panel, and I think two or three of them within a day or two at different points. They basically literally said that Trump needs to be assassinated, and then they were called on it, and this is just and we were being hyperbolic in the conversation and blah blah blah. But again, it just goes back to I mean, maybe I missed it because I'm still fairly new, what I consider myself somewhat a conservative now. But I just, can you imagine Fox News talking about assassinating Obama, right? Or even Clinton or any, like, I've never heard them, say anything like that and stuff. But these guys can be on national television with millions of people. And I will also end real quickly with this. This is how kind of deranged some of these people are. And I have a relative that I've mentioned before. And like during the whole Russia collusion thing, and then, after that, somewhere along the lines, I mean, she literally said to me one time, and we haven't spoke much since, of course, but like she like literally said, I wish someone would just assassinate him. Like, and she's just a simple woman, not politically, well versed on anything and stuff. So something has filtered down through this country of this demonization of both sides, of course, but where just the general public is okay with the possible accession of any president of the United States. No one should ever even think that. I mean, I hated the Bushes. I literally thought Bushes, Rumsfeld, Cheney, all of them were evil to the core. And, whatever, but I would never think about our president of the United States. Well, if he got assassinated, it was must have been for, a good reason. We have to be very concerned about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as Julia just said, and as you said, Michael, things that were not even thought of 6 months ago or a year ago are now not only being thought of, but being carried out, like a search warrant at the president's home. It's
openly discussed on national media.
Right.
Like, where is that outrage from? That's the point. There is no outrage from moderate Democrats and or the left when you're watching MSNBC and they're somewhat joking about someone should assassinate a former president.
Yeah, it's yeah, and I mean, just think about if they did think about if Trump did a search warrant, which if he gets in power, I wouldn't blame him if he hit Obama's house and Biden's house in the same day. But obviously it wouldn't be him, but it would be his new AG that he put in. But think about, just if it was Obama's house or it was Biden's house or it was Clinton's house that had a search warrant done by a Republican administration. There would there would be there would be riots again. DC would be shut down. Wherever they live would be, wherever the person lives would be shut down. You would have BLM 2020 over again. And
Well, and crypto, that's where I'm trying to interrupt this cognitive dissonance with people, right? On the left, I'll try to do this as best I can. Okay, Trump's supposed to be this authoritarian dictator, et cetera, et cetera. He did not put in the Army National Guard in multiple cities and stuff. He did in Portland, of course, but he didn't do the authoritarian thing. The Bidens, Jim and Joe Biden and Hunter Biden have been under investigations while he was president. The FBI had the stuff in like 2017. He could have raided the Bidens. This whole thing with the Ukraine call was basically like, hey, there looks like there's some corruption going on with Hunter Biden and, this Burisma, whatever in Ukraine. He gets impeached for that. So he's aware of the corruption, but he doesn't have the Bidens. And Biden didn't even announce that he was running for president. That was a year later. He could have raided the Bidens. He could have raided the Clintons over the whole DNC thing and the precursors to Russia collusion. I mean, he could have done all these authoritarian things that he gets blamed or, whatever to be, but he didn't do it. And that's what's so frustrating is, anyway, I'm rambling.
I will never understand the Hunter Biden thing. I'll just never understand it. We have videos, drugs, possibly underage women just online staring us in the face, and just nothing's been done. I keep hearing that there's whispers of a possible indictment and it could be on taxes or it's just amazing stuff. Any other person put that online, within 24 to 48 hours you'd have a knock on your door. That one's just amazing. I mean that
but it's not that crypto. We always do that, and again, I'll apologize to you personally. I don't care about the videos. We have documentation and text and literal phone calls and etc. We have hundreds of things of the Bidens, Joe Biden in Iraq and other places using the office when he was vice president. The Hunter Biden thing is all about, what we should always talk about is the deals with China, Russia, Ukraine, etc. over energy things, top secret things with China and doing business with China companies that were stealing our top secret military information, that stuff. And there's just this, again, cognitive dissonance. Well, Joe Biden can say, I've never spoke to my son about his business dealings. But we're the closest family in the world, and he's the best friend I've ever had. Is there any person that has a child or your parents and you're a child and they don't know about your business dealings?
But Michael, he's also on Hunter's voicemail talking about it. So, we have that as well. So I definitely get it. And you're right that those are the bigger things. Those just aren't staring me in the face. If anyone has put me towards, some of the documents, that I can look into and things like that, I'd be glad to. And I agree. Those are the bigger issues. It's just tough to ignore crack and hookers and underage kids when I can click on the video on Twitter every day. But no, there's talks about Burisma and China. I don't know the details of it, but if they're out there, I would love to read about it. And again, if that was Don Jr. or Eric, they'd be in the gulag. So it is what it is. All right, we got two more speakers, and then we'll go from there.
All right, let's go to Kermira. Hey, Kurt.
Hey, Julia. Hey, Crypto, BY, Michael. What are we talking about? Will Trump be indicted, I guess? I hope not, but it just seems like they've gone so far down this road that, I hope some cooler head will prevail. But personally, I don't think so. I think they will indict him probably. If it gets to that, he should he should I think he should challenge the search warrant that it violated the Fourth Amendment. And he certainly should challenge the trial itself if it's in Washington, D.C., because he cannot get a fair trial in Washington, D.C. There's no freaking way. I don't care what jury, he'll be convicted of any crime in Washington, D.C. And a Washington, D.C. grand jury would indict him on anything. So, and they know that. That's why they want to hold the trial in Washington, D.C. So, that's certainly true. I mean, to me, the president, the classification power rests with him. If he declassified these documents before he left office, then I don't see how he's right. They were declassified the way I see it. All the declassification power comes from the president. It's like an almost, I think, absolute power, like the power. So, I don't know how they can say that they were classified documents if he declassified them before he left office, and all the declassification power comes from the president. So I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? BY, Julia?
No, Kurt, I think you make a great point, and I agree with you. And I also think it's ironic that we're having a conversation about boxes of paperwork that was declassified sitting in Trump's house that everyone knew about, when Michael just spoke about real issues like Biden giving access to his father or cutting deals with our enemies, and
he's above the law, it seems. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. No. Right. And and we're not talking about that. So one is a couple boxes in someone's house, and the other one seems to be possibly a serious national security problem and interest. So.
Well, the reason they're not going to move on the Bidens, I've said it 100 times, and it's just the fact. The reason they're not going to move on the Bidens, along with some of these other issues, is because all of the politicians are doing it, right? These dealings with China, under the table, et cetera, et cetera. Ukraine was the most corrupt country in the world. That's where everybody globally went to do their money laundering, and et cetera, et cetera. So all these people, many of these people in Congress and had career politicians, they're all part of it. So they're not going to tell on each other and allow one person to go down, because Biden's got the dirt on them too, just like the Clintons had dirt on everybody.
Yeah, and I would say you were talking about, would they actually try to, the Kennedy solution? It's scary, but I think they would. They'll do anything at this point, including that, I think, if they have to. Look what happened to Kennedy. He got in their way, and they got rid of him. So, it's scary. I don't know. I think they would, actually. I hope Trump has a lot of security, because I wouldn't be surprised. Or if just some lunatic leftist, because they've gone insane, if they just try to shoot him, I wouldn't be surprised at all if that happens. So, because the left has gone even more deranged than even on Twitter here in the last few weeks, they've gotten even more insane. Like with the Dark Brandon stuff, they've completely lost their minds. They have no, wall on Twitter that they won't cross. If you're an effective conservative on Twitter with effective tweets, they'll send replies and messages, threatening you with death. They do it. I've seen them. They do it. It's disgusting, the messages that they send to conservatives on here. They treat us like crap on Twitter. It's just ridiculous. It's insane. They're just hateful people. I don't know how you wish harm on people you've never even met, but they do it all the time. So, I don't know. It's just scary. And, if they actually tried to imprison Trump, I'm afraid what would happen. There could be red state secession, or a civil war or something like that. I don't know. He got 75 million votes. They're not all going to accept him, going to prison, I don't think. So, I don't know what the hell would happen, but it won't be good. So, that's my take. But I do think Trump will run, certainly. I don't think there's anything that will stop him now from doing that. So.
Crypto, real quick, if they get we believe they're going to indict him. Do they, from your experience, whatever, we know they're going to try to do it, but will they get the perp walk? Will they get him with cuffs on and stuff, or will that be hopefully a sore thing with the indictment?
Well, the indictment would come from a grand jury, which would be obviously closed doors and secret. And then, man, it just depends what you want to do, right? You can make a phone call to him, which I think you would probably be better off doing, and saying, listen, can you come by, DC, FBI, in a couple days, we have an indictment. That would probably be the better rate of doing it. But considering they just ran into his house, they could very well break down the doors of Mar-a-Lago and get him in his undies and make a spectacle out of him. I at this point I have no idea what they're capable of. Ordinarily, if you're in contact with a person, you usually make a phone call and just say, hey, we have an indictment. Obviously it's a little different from what I was doing with gangbangers and people that run from you and, they don't have a home and, they don't have things like that. But, Donald Trump is not really one person that can hide that well. You can make a phone call to him and I'm sure he would show up with his attorneys. So I don't know what they're capable of anymore. So let's go to BY, Michael, and then Julia, and then we'll go ahead and we'll wrap it up for the night.
Okay, I guess if it's going to me, I'll just kind of go through things real quick. All these attacks against Trump are loosely coordinated. It's a death by 1,000 paper cuts approach. We've got the New York State Soros-funded tax investigation where Lolita James is asking for the death penalty for Trump's corporation. In Georgia, they're taking where Trump asked for all the votes to be counted to somehow mean that he was at like 10,000 illegal votes to be counted for the GOP. The J6 committee is pretending that even though Trump called for peaceful protests, that he somehow conspired inside a riot. There's this whole false state of electors bullshit where the GOP just wanted to have alternate electors in case the judges sided with us, and they're trying to make that sound like it's some crazy insurrection. But as Julia's pointed out before, the other side's done separate slate of electors for this type of purpose. I think we need to remove all, if not end the FBI completely, remove all intelligence functions, because it's been shown time and again that they use the counterintelligence wing where there's lower standards to spy on Americans to essentiate criminal proceedings. Kurt made a good point. Yeah, we need to end political trials in locations where 95% of jury pools are from one political party like DC, because Trump would always get convicted there. And to end it, just Trump did nothing wrong except make America strong. Biden does nothing right except hiding in his basement out of sight. That's all I have.
Michael? Michael, are you there?
Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah, I'm just going to do a little pretty biased thing here. This is again for me someone that wasn't a huge Trump, fan. I didn't vote for him in 2016, but I greatly appreciated almost every one of his policies. But I'll just say it this way. This whole kind of thing about, Trump is this and that, and he was only out for himself, this I'm so frustrated. It's an American story. I mean, this guy's a billionaire. He didn't have to run for office. He didn't even take his salary. You know what I mean? Granted, he didn't need the money, of course, but no praise. Any president in the history ever not taken his salary. So it's just so frustrating, these narratives about Trump and what he supposedly is and stuff. And it's just this persecution of him as a person. People don't like his personality, et cetera, et cetera. But, I'm so frustrated with the whole thing that I'll just end with that.
Julia, go ahead and close it out.
All right. So I'll just have a couple news pieces here on the Mar-a-Lago raid, because that's kind of what the space was all about. CBS News is reporting that it learned weeks before the search, a Trump lawyer signed a document certifying that all classified materials had been removed from Mar-a-Lago. And that was according to two sources familiar with the timeline events and the decision to seek the search warrant. The response from a Trump spokesperson, Taylor Budowich, asked for comment on the signed document. She replied, just like every Democrat fabricated witch hunt previously, the water of this unprecedented and unnecessary raid is being carried by a media willing to run with suggestive leaks, anonymous sources, and no hard facts. The Biden administration thought they could get Trump. Instead, they've been exposed as the very people who turn democracies into dictatorships. And I guess the concern here is that, or what the media is trying to point out, is that it's believed that I think Christine Bob, one of his lawyers, was saying that there may still have been classified material there. I'm not sure on that, but this is a story that just came out about an hour ago. So the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee, led by Mark Warner and Republican Marco Rubio, asked the Justice Department and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence to provide the seized documents on a classified basis. The two senators had also requested an assessment of potential risks to national security as a result of possible mishandling of the files. So what I really want to know with this is, why aren't they investigating the actual raid or demanding the affidavit? Like, this is the GOP once again already compromising with the enemy, playing right into their hand. And of course, people who spoke up was Mike Turner. He's a top Republican on the House Intelligence Committee, and he said today that the Biden administration should provide more details on what led to the search. Quote, Congress is saying, show us. We want to know, what did the FBI tell them? What did they find? So other Republicans did step up the calls for release of the affidavit. And of course, that's the affidavit that would allegedly show the justification for the seizure of the documents at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. Senator Mike Round said, I think releasing the affidavit would help. At least that would confirm there was some justification for this raid. The Justice Department should show us that this was not just a fishing expedition, that they had due cause to go in and do this, that they did exhaust all the means. And if they can't do that, we have a serious problem on our hands. And surprisingly, Representative Brian Fitzpatrick, he's from my state, I'm not usually a fan of his, he said that the search of Trump's home was an unprecedented action that needs to be supported by unprecedented justification, and that the probable cause affidavit would show whether the standard was reached, even if it was only shown to lawmakers in a classified briefing. I've encouraged all my colleagues on the left and the right to reserve judgment and not get ahead of yourself, because you don't know what the document contains. It's going to answer a lot of questions. Definitely agree with him on the latter. But I do think that it should be shown to everyone. Just two quick news stories here. Taiwan, a second U.S. congressional delegation is visiting Taiwan. It's led by Massachusetts Democratic Senator Ed Markey. It has already arrived, and it was an unannounced 2-day visit. This is a 5-member delegation. And what they're doing is, quote, reaffirming the United States support for Taiwan. And it says they will encourage stability and peace across the Taiwan Strait. And that was a spokesperson for Markey. Now, recall that Nancy Pelosi drew the ire of China when she became the first U.S. speaker to visit Taiwan in 25 years. And the Foreign Ministry of Taiwan said it sincerely welcomes the delegation and thanked them for demonstrating the U.S.'s strong support toward Taiwan despite escalating tensions with Beijing. And then Florida has a unique plan to address dire teacher shortage. The state unveiled a new plan to address this, focusing on recruiting veterans to become temporary teachers. At the start of 2022, there are more than 9,500 total teaching vacancies in the state. So apparently interested veterans don't need to have a college degree, but they must have served at least 4 years of military service, along with other criteria. DeSantis is directing the state's Department of Education to allow veterans to receive a temporary 5-year teaching certificate while they earn a bachelor's degree. It'll allow them to become mentors or mentor teachers for a minimum of 2 years. And he said that, quote, our veterans will have a wealth of knowledge and experience they can bring to bear in the classroom. And with this innovative approach, they will be able to do so for 5 years with a temporary certification as they work toward their degree. In response, the Florida Education Association essentially believes that recruiting veterans won't help the teacher shortage, and it doesn't address the low pay or lack of professional respect. But the legislation, which is called SB 896, was passed unanimously in the Florida House and Senate with the intention of opening opportunities in the education sector. So just to end on this note, a reminder, I mentioned earlier that the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, released a joint intelligence bulletin that warned of the potential for domestic violent extremists to carry out attacks. That was in response to the Mar-a-Lago raid. So they're definitely very concerned about threats to law enforcement. The FBI is working with agencies to assess and respond threats. Just wanted to remind everyone, really judicious about what you say, especially on social media as they're monitoring that. But thanks everyone for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you on some of our podcasts in the future because we have a lot of them coming up. Crypto?
Awesome. Thanks, Julia. Yeah, guys, everyone have a great night. I will put the Podbean link up for tomorrow night for our podcast, and everyone have a great end to your weekend. Have a great that they weren't, which I was hoping going